Hey friends, before we dive into tonight's story, did you know that nearly 80% of the people who watch these videos aren't subscribed? If you're enjoying this kind of content, consider hitting the subscribe button. It really helps a lot, and it keeps these long stories going. Also, I'd love to hear from you. What time is it right now where you are, and which city are you listening from tonight? And if these stories help you sleep, feel free to tap the thanks button to support the channel. It truly means a lot. All right, let's get into it. I shut off the cruiser's engine against the hush of Route 67. The wind had died to a low moan, drifting across the cracked asphalt in soft gusts that rattled the broken guardrail. My radio lay silent on the passenger seat. No calls, no chatter, just the faint hiss of static bleeding through the speaker. I rubbed my hands together, the chill settling into my bones, and pulled my collar tighter. Nights like this always felt infinite. Nights like this I felt the weight of every mile I'd ever patrolled. I stepped onto the shoulder, gravel shifting beneath my boots. My maglight's beam cut a narrow cone into the darkness. Up ahead, the silhouette of the McAllister farmhouse crouched against the sky. Weather-bleached siding, sagging porch, windows like dark, unblinking eyes. The windmill beside it creaked in protest as it turned. I'd driven past this place a dozen times, but tonight something made me pause. Maybe it was the way the moonlight pooled in the broken window frames, or the way the tumbleweeds gathered at the corner of the porch like silent witnesses. I clicked on my flashlight and moved forward. Each step echoed, small and loud in the stillness. I ran a gloved finger along the porch railing, gritty paint flakes crumbling under my touch. I cleared my throat. Deputy Mills, Marion County. Anybody here needs help? My breath curled white in front of me. No answer, only the windmill's slow groan. I scanned the yard, rusted farm equipment half buried in weeds, an overturned wheelbarrow. A child's toy truck, its faded red paint ghostly in the beam. I crouched to inspect it. No sign of recent use, abandoned, like the rest of this place. I stood and sighed, probably just kids trespassing last month. I clicked off the light and stepped back into the cruiser. As I settled into the driver's seat, the dashboard clock glowed 0017. The temperature read 40 degrees Fahrenheit. My reflection stared back at me, eyes tired, jaw clenched. I flicked the heat on low, tuned the radio to scan. Dead air. I tapped the dash. Nothing. Out here, silence was normal, but tonight it pressed in like something alive. I eased back onto the road, tires crunching over gravel. The beam picked up another shape at the tree line, a cluster of mobile homes at Crane Trailer Park. Once a bustling stop for seasonal workers, now half the units were empty, windows boarded, doors hanging ajar. The sign's neon letters flickered, vacancy, though no one ever stayed. I shone the light across the park. No movement, just long shadows stretching between rusted trailers. My mind drifted to the missing jogger, Carolyn Peters. 2 nights gone, last seen near here, running against the wind. They searched the creek beds and fence lines, but nothing turned up. No footprints beyond the road shoulder, no tire tracks. It was as if she vanished into thin air. I shook it off. I'd chased enough leads that went nowhere. I flicked on my signal, turned onto the overgrown service road that cut behind the trailers. The air grew colder, denser. My beam caught the broken skeleton of a phone booth. Glass shattered, receiver missing. The phone line overhead drooped, cable swaying. I stepped out again, boots sinking into damp earth. I lifted the receiver hook, nothing. I clicked off the light. Back in the cruiser, I punched the heater higher. Steam curled from the vents. I needed coffee, maybe a break at the station. But first, one more sweep down Route 67. I shifted into drive. As I rounded the bend, brake lights, red, glowed ahead on the grass shoulder. The same place I'd checked 20 minutes ago. Only this time, no car. I frowned, slowed, scanned the ditch with my spotlight, empty. My pulse quickened. Ghost lights. I shook my head. Too many late nights. I radioed in. Red, 5, 1028 clear, no vehicle on shoulder. Static. I drove on. Half a mile later, I nearly ran off the road. There, just beyond the ditch, the Taurus sat again. Driver's door wide open, dark interior yawning. No headlights, no plates. My breath caught. I parked, cut the engine, and sat listening. Nothing but my ragged inhale. Then, a soft scuff, like leather on metal. I slammed the door, flashlight and hand on holster, and approached. The odor hit me before I even stepped onto the shoulder. A sour stink, like dead animal left to bake. I flicked the beam inside, front seat caked in dark stains. I swallowed past the burn in my throat. On the floorboard, tissues, paper towels, soaked through, dyed a deep crimson. I crouched, heart hammering. I nudged one with my toe, wet, heavy, fresh. I called softly, "If you're hurt, show yourself." My voice trembled despite me. The beam swung to the woods, corn, stubble fields beyond, skeletal stalks rattling. A branch snapped. My head snapped up. I caught a glimpse of movement, a shape retreating into shadow. I stepped forward, flashlight trembling. "Hey!" I barked. The echo sounded wrong, hollow. I edged toward the tree line, every sense straining. The shape melted away. No footprints in the soft earth, no sign of passage. Just the damp soil and the hush. Back at the car, I rifled through the glove box. Nothing useful. I radioed for backup. Red 5, possible 1054, suspicious vehicle with blood. I need K9 and CSI at mile 12, Route 67. The dispatcher crackled acknowledgement. I switched off my light and waited, engine idling, eyes on the door gap. Minutes stretched. I watched the darkness. The wind picked up, carrying the faintest moan. Human, animal, I couldn't tell. I clicked on the spotlight and swept the tree line. Empty. My pulse thundered. I stepped closer, flashlight in one hand, radio in the other. Then I saw it. Under the front seat, a glint of metal. I crouched, reached in with gloved fingers and felt cold steel, a revolver. .38, grip worn, barrel warm. I stood, heart pounding, swiveled the beam through the open door. No driver, no sign of struggle except the blood. The cruiser's headlights painted the trailer park in stark relief as backup squealed in behind me. Engines cut, doors slammed. 2 deputies fanned out with flashlights. K9 unit arrived, dog barking into the night. We searched edge to edge, nothing. No tracks, no blood trail, no person. CSI dusted prints. Only my own and the registered owners. The gun was bagged, blood samples sent, evidence tags clipped. I hovered, watching them work. The windmill's creak and the dog's distant whine were the only sounds. When they loaded the Taurus onto the flatbed, I shivered. The tissues, the gun, the stink, they stayed with me. I climbed back in my cruiser, lights off. Route 67 stretched empty ahead. I wondered if I'd imagined the door open the first time, but the stains, the radio call, the gun, those were real. I punched the mic. Red 5 clear. Scene secured. The dispatcher's voice sounded far away. I eased back onto the road. The farmhouse receded into darkness. The trailer park's neon sputtered out of view. My reflection in the rearview mirror looked hollow. I closed my eyes for a moment, inhaled. The night felt alive, watching. I flicked the radio on one more time, static. Then I drove on, alone, down Route 67, into the wide, waiting dark. I punched the odometer's reset and let the cruiser coast through the bend, eyes sliding over the darkened fields. It was 1:12 on the clock, 15 minutes since backup cleared out and the tow truck hauled that Taurus away. I should have gone back to the station for coffee and to fill out my report, but something about this stretch kept pulling me back. The hush felt wrong, like a held breath. I eased the wheel, tuned the radio again, still dead. The air was colder now, dropping into the upper 30s. Frost would be forming on low-lying grass soon. My breath fogged against the windshield. I rolled down the window an inch and listened. Nothing but the wind stirring stalks in the adjacent cornfield. My headlights picked out the rigid silhouettes of corn stalks marching off into the black. I thought I saw movement there once, a flicker at the corner of my vision, but when I checked, nothing. I passed the McAllister house again. The broken window gaped like a dark tooth. The windmill's slow creak had stilled. I glanced left, half expecting to catch a flash of white on the porch. Instead, the tumbleweeds lay motionless. I shifted in my seat. I considered turning around, calling it a night, but the deputy in me wouldn't let it go. I flipped on the cruiser's overhead lights for a moment, illuminating the yard in stark blue and red. The paint peeled. The blankets on the porch swing fluttered. Then I killed the lights and the farmhouse sank back into shadow. I pulled onto the service road that cut behind the trailer park. Gravel crunched. The neon sign sputtered vacancy, though every unit was dark. I thought about knocking on a door, asking if anyone saw that car or heard someone running through the park. But I knew the answer. No one would be outside at this hour. The few residents left kept their curtains drawn. The little CB radio on the dash crackled once, just a pop, then went silent. I tapped it. Static. The perfect silence pressed in. My pulse quickened. I imagined footprints beyond the ditch, phantom tracks leading into the fields. I shook my head. Too many late shifts. I cut the engine again and stepped out. The gravel was damp, cold, seeping through my boots. I clicked on the mag light and swept it across the trailers. Windows boarded, doors chained. Nothing moved. I took a slow breath, the cold air stinging my lungs, and returned to the cruiser. Back in the seat, I fiddled with the flashlight, clicking it off and on. Shadows leapt against the door frame. My nerve endings buzzed. I turned the heat up, letting the defroster clear the windows. The clock read 1:25. Another 10 minutes wasted. I drove back to Route 67 proper, tires grinding on the center line. The world ahead was a tunnel of black and silver light. I thought of the tissues in that Taurus, crumpled and sodden, of the smell that made me retch. I thought of the shape in the woods, disappearing between the trunks. I thought of the 38 special in evidence. As I neared mile 12, I slowed. Reflex. The spot where the Taurus had been parked came into view, empty now. My headlights glinted off the guardrail. I stopped, cut the engine, and sat listening. My reflection stared back, tired, haunted. I reached for the mic. Red 5 to dispatch. Status check. No answer. I clicked again. Static. I stepped out, light in one hand, radio in the other. The gravel crunched. I scanned the ditch. Nothing. Then the beam caught something near the guardrail, a scrap of blood-dark fabric. I crouched. It was a torn piece of coat lining, stiff with congealed fluid. I bagged it mentally as the evidence. Whoever had been here left parts of themselves behind. A distant bark, farm dog, coyote, made me start. I swung the light toward the tree line. The cornfield stood silent. I whispered, "Come on out," though I knew no one would. I felt eyes on me from somewhere beyond the beam. My skin prickled. I climbed back in, heart racing. I dialed my partner on the secure line, Deputy Harris. "You up?" he answered groggily. I told him the scene was quiet, but I found fabric. He said he'd come out. ETA 10 minutes. I killed the call and inhaled. Minutes later, Harris's cruiser pulled up behind mine. He jogged over, coffee in hand. "You look like hell," he said, voice low. I nodded toward the ditch. He crouched, examined the lining. "Fresh," he said. "Less than an hour." He scanned the woods. "You want me to shine it out?" I shook my head. We stood shoulder to shoulder, light cutting a swath through the night. I told him what I'd seen, the shape, the tissues, the gun. He frowned. "No prints, no tracks," he said. "It's like he vanished." I swallowed. We searched again. Harris calling commands, K9 circling, light beams dancing. The dog sniffed at the guardrail, then retreated, uninterested. The woods yielded nothing. No footprints in the loam, no drag marks, no broken branches. The fields were empty. We returned to the cruiser. Harris sipped his coffee. "You think it was the same guy?" he asked. I nodded. "Only explanation." He shook his head. "This county doesn't do horror shows." He offered me the cup. I accepted. The bitter warmth helped. I keyed the mic. Red 5, scene still secure. No sign of suspect. Evidence collected. Returning to station shortly. Dispatch crackled acknowledgement. We drove slowly back toward town. The temp rose to 38 degrees Fahrenheit as the heater hummed. I watched the road, waiting. Harris broke the silence. "You getting those lab results back on the hand?" I nodded. "Blood types A, no matches in state database, DNA pending." He whistled. "That's some weird shit." I swallowed. "Yeah." I thought of the hand, pale, severed, wrapped in towels. Something so final, so brutal, and no suspect, no motive, just a mystery. We passed the yellow glow of the station sign. I flicked on the dome light. "I'm going in to finish the report. You want to grab another coffee?" He smiled tiredly. "Nah, I'll watch the monitors. You good?" I nodded. Inside, the warmth hit me. The station was quiet. Lone dispatcher, screens blinking. I sat at a desk and opened the digital report form. Fingers hovered over keys. I wrote objective facts, time, location, evidence, then narrative. My call, my observations. My pulse hammered as I typed. Every so often I glanced at the CCTV feed from the lot. Shadows moved among parked cruisers. I felt watched. I shook it off. By 3 a.m., the report was done. I hit submit. The dispatcher yawned. "Anything else?" I asked her to flag the evidence for immediate processing. She nodded. I collected my gear, mag light, gloves, jacket, and headed out. Harris was still sitting with his coffee, eyes drooping. I clapped him on the shoulder. "Get some rest," he nodded. Outside, the sky was paling toward dawn. A sliver of pink touched the horizon. The wind had dropped. Route 67 lay empty. I climbed in, turned the key, and felt the engine roar to life. I checked the dash. 3:15, 36 degrees Fahrenheit. As I drove off, I thought, maybe tomorrow they'll find something. Maybe the DNA will match someone. Maybe the hand will tell me who ran into those woods. But deep down, I knew. No amount of evidence would explain the emptiness out there. The way the night swallows you whole. I passed the McAllister farm one last time. The porch lay in fragile shadow. I thought I saw the curtain twitch. I blinked, and it was still. I drove on, heart still thudding. Behind me, the world exhaled, and the dark held its secrets close. The cruiser's headlights carved a pale path through the gathering fog as I rolled onto Route 67 again. Dawn was still hours away, but the eastern sky had taken on a steely hue, an indistinct promise of light. I glanced at the rearview mirror. Deputy Harris's cruiser followed at a respectful distance, engine idling. He'd agreed to ride shotgun for the rest of the shift. Neither of us spoke. Words felt brittle in that half-lit world. My knuckles ached from gripping the wheel. Every mile marker felt loaded now. Mile 11, mile 12, mile 13. Each one a reminder of the unanswered questions. I eased the cruiser onto the gravel turnout by the old phone booth. The torn coat lining still lay where we'd bagged it. I killed the engine. The world settled into an almost sacred quiet, broken only by distant cattle lowing and the soft hum of the dew forming on weeds. Harris stepped out, flashlight in hand, and studied the lining again. "Scene of the non-crime," he muttered. I managed a tired half-smile. We both knew better than to call it non-crime. The blood, the hand, the gun, they screamed crime. But no body, no suspect, no motive. It was a crime that refused to exist. I crouched and traced a fingertip in the damp soil where the lining had been. The earth was soft. Too soft. If someone had fled on foot, I'd expect scuff marks, drag lines. Nothing. Even the grass looked untroubled, as though nothing had moved through here. I swallowed. "Maybe he floated off," I said, half joking. Harris didn't laugh. We stood in the beam of our flashlights, halos in the haze. I felt the edges of my reality fray, stood too long in that unnatural quiet, and the mind begins to wander. I thought of the tissues soaked in blood, wadded in the back seat like grotesque confetti. I thought of the revolver under the driver's seat, warm, intimate, ready. I thought of the missing hand's DNA, spinning in a lab somewhere, waiting for a ghost match. Harris cleared his throat. "You okay?" His voice was gentle, concerned. I forced a nod. "Just tired." But it wasn't just tired. It was that hollow sense that came when you realize the world doesn't add up. When evidence piles up, but the story never quite fits. I rose, brushing dirt from my knees. The fog curled around us, swallowing the trailer park sign in a gray swirl. I clicked off my light and turned back to the cruiser. Harris followed. I slid behind the wheel. He climbed in beside me. I stared ahead into the misty black. "Let's finish this," I said, and fired up the engine. We drove on, headlights piercing the gloom. Every so often, I thought I saw shapes at the corner of the road, dark forms among the stalks, but each time I blinked, they were gone. My heart thrummed. We passed the McAllister farm once more. The porch swing was still, but I could almost hear its boards creak under invisible weight. A broken shutter rattled. I slowed, peering into the dark windows. I half expected to see someone watching, leaning out, but there was nothing. Just the silent house, waiting. Back on Route 67, I felt the walls of the cruiser close in. My reflection in the side mirror looked gaunt, eyes rimmed. I swallowed and cleared my throat. "I'm going to run the plate on that Taurus again," I said. "Maybe something got missed in the initial check." Harris nodded. "I'll radio it in." He tapped the mic. No response. The tower must have been overloaded or offline. Out here, radio silence was normal. He tried again. Still nothing. We were alone. I opened the door at mile 14 and stepped onto the asphalt. The fog swallowed my legs. I pressed my hand to the guardrail, cold, damp metal, and leaned in. The world fell away. For a moment I felt weightless, suspended between earth and sky. The only sound was my own breathing. Then, a whisper of movement behind me. Leaves rustled. I spun, flashlight raised. Beam cut through the fog. Empty. I stepped back, heart pounding. The hairs on my neck stood up. I told myself it was the wind. It had to be. I closed my eyes and counted to 10. In, 2, out 2, in, 2, out 2. When I opened them, Harris was at my side. He put a hand on my shoulder. "You all right?" he asked. His silhouette wavered in the mist. I nodded and turned back to the cruiser. My boot hit something soft on the road. I bent, picked up a single blood-damp tissue. I stared at it in my glove. No other markings. I stood and crushed it in my fist. "That's the third one," I said. "They're leaving me messages." Harris frowned. "Messages?" I shook my head. "I don't know, but they're staged. Tissue here, lining there. It's like someone wants me to find them." My voice dropped. "Wants me to chase ghosts." He was silent. We climbed in. I tossed the tissue onto the floorboard. The cruiser's heater clicked on. I watched the road ahead, white lines fading into fog. We never found another trace. The plate check came back clean. No hits. The lab called. DNA inconclusive. No matches. The hand was cremated as unidentified remains. The Taurus was returned to its owner, who still swore he'd never seen it since he reported it stolen. 2 days later, I drove this stretch again, daylight, and it felt hollow, like a stage set emptied of actors. The farmhouse looked forlorn. The trailer park gates sagged. The phone booth still stood shattered. But the goosebumps, the heartbeat-loud silence, the flash of something in the field, those lived only in memory. Now I keep the cruiser fueled and ready. I drive Route 67 at night, flashlight and maglite in the console, hand near my holster. I expect to see that Taurus reappear. I expect to find more tissues, more scraps, a breadcrumb trail through the dark. Because out here, on the ragged edge of nowhere, the night doesn't let go. It holds on, watchful. And sometimes I wonder, am I hunting a person or am I chasing the night itself? When the wind picks up and the fog drifts low, I feel it brush against me, a silent presence. And I know I'll never stop patrolling this road, never stop listening for the next creak, the next moan, the next soft scuff of footsteps on gravel. Because whatever it is, it's still out there, and it wants me to find it. I eased the cruiser onto the shoulder and killed the engine. The dash clock glowed 1:45. Harris sat beside me, silent, sipping the last of his coffee. The fog swirled around the headlights, turning the asphalt into a pale river. I opened the driver's door and stepped out, air sharp as broken glass. I clicked on my maglite and swept the beam over the guardrail, the empty field beyond, the line of skeletal cornstalks. "Fifth tissue," I said, holding up my glove. "Just here." Harris swallowed. "They're lining you up." I didn't answer. I knelt and touched the damp ribbon of fabric still clinging to the guardrail's edge. It was colder than the air, unnaturally so. I traced its torn weave with my fingertip. Whoever left it wanted me to find it, wanted me to feel their presence. I stood and faced the field. The stalks rustled, though no wind stirred. My breath caught. I clicked off the light. Darkness swallowed me. I listened. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. Then a soft scuff from somewhere ahead, like someone dragging a foot across loose soil. I swallowed, raised the maglite, and stepped forward, boot heels sinking slightly in the damp ground. Harris followed, light bobbing behind me. Each step felt heavy, as if the field itself resisted. The scuff came again, just beyond my beam. I advanced. The stalks opened onto a patch of bare earth, a shallow depression rimmed with crushed grass. In its center lay a single blood-soaked tissue. I crouched, heart hammering, and bagged it mentally. No other marks, no footprints entering or leaving, just the tissue. I looked skyward. The fog shrouded the moon. Stars were gone. The world felt closed in, suffocating. I pressed my hand to my chest. My breath came fast. I called, voice low, "If you're here, show yourself." Silence, then a whisper. So faint I almost doubted it. It sounded like my name, Mills, carried on a breath that wasn't mine. I froze. The hair on my arm stood up. My flashlight trembled in my grip. "Harris?" I mouthed. He was watching the shadows. I took a step toward the depression. The air felt electric. My skin prickled. The whisper came again. "Mills." I swallowed. What do you want?" I called. My voice cracked. No answer, only the soft hum of static from my radio. I clicked the mic. "Red 5 to dispatch." Nothing. I turned to Harris. His face was pale in the beam. "Let's get out of here," he whispered. I shook my head. "Not yet." I scanned the ground. The soil here was darker, richer. I knelt and touched it. It felt moist, almost warm. I closed my eyes, trying to steady myself. The whisper drifted again, just beyond hearing. "Mills." I snapped open my eyes. The tissue lay like an accusatory finger. I stood. "They're taunting me," I said. Harris stepped forward. He crouched, shining his light on the depression's edge. "It's a grave," he said softly. "Something buried." My stomach turned. "Don't," I warned. He pressed the beam into the center. The soil there was disturbed, freshly turned. I felt bile rise. I circled the hollow. The ground gave no resistance. Whoever dug it had used tools, filled it back in. Then left the tissue as a marker. I radioed it in. "Red 5, possible clandestine grave at mile 12 field. Request CSI excavation team." Answer crackled. 10-4 Red 5 ETA 20. I exhaled. 20 minutes. 20 minutes of standing in this open wound of earth. I leaned on the guardrail. The fog thickened, coiling around my legs. The whisper came again, urgent. "Mills." I snapped to attention. "Show yourself," I said, voice low but firm. Nothing but fog. I glanced at Harris. He nodded. We stepped back to the cruiser. I retrieved evidence bags and gloves. We marked the perimeter with tape from my pocket. The tape fluttered in the mist. Every movement felt amplified in the hush. As we worked, I thought of the missing jogger, of the severed hand, of the empty car. All pieces of a puzzle that refused to resolve. I thought of the shape in the woods. I thought of the whisper calling my name. By the time CSI arrived with shovels and lights, I was trembling. They knelt in the depression, started to peel back sod. I stepped aside, hands shoved in pockets. The first shovelful revealed dark, clotted earth, then fabric. Dark coat lining, matched to the scrap on the guardrail. Then bone. I turned away. Harris placed a hand on my shoulder. We watched them dig. The night stretched around us, indifferent. When they lifted the remains, partial skeleton wrapped in cloth, I saw the jawbone and knew. It was the jogger, Carolyn Peters. Missing 2 nights, now found, but only half. No skull, no arms, a torso and pelvis. CSI worked in silence. Evidence tags, photos. I logged each detail. The whisper returned, softer now. "Thank you." Or maybe my mind conjured it. I pressed my glove to my ear. Nothing. They loaded the remains onto a stretcher. I watched until the ambulance lights swallowed them. The depression lay empty again, a hollow wound in the field. Harris and I packed up. The yellow tape flapped. I felt hollow too. We drove back onto Route 67. The cruiser's heater hummed. I watched the road. "Will they find who did this?" Harris asked. I shook my head. "Hope so, but this feels different, like the night did it." He frowned. "The night?" I glanced at the fog drifting in through the windshield. "It holds secrets. Sometimes it gives them up. like this grave, but it never gives up everything. He was silent. I tapped the dash. The clock read 2:45. An hour passed in that field. The evidence, the remains, the whisper, they belonged to the night now. We returned to the station. I filed the additional report, grave located, remains recovered, evidence collected. I noted the whisper in my personal log, unofficial. No one would include that. By 4 a.m., I was alone again. The station lights dimmed. I walked outside. The sky was paling at the horizon. The wind had dropped. The fog lingered in pockets. I stood on the steps looking down Route 67. My reflection in the cruiser's window looked worn. I touched the glass. The whisper was gone. Only the memory remained. I climbed in for one last patrol before dawn. The engine rumbled. I drove off, headlights cutting through the thinning mist. Behind me, the field lay silent, its secret half revealed, half withheld, and I knew the night would keep its other half forever. The cruiser's engine idled as I rolled past mile 12 one last time before turning onto the service road. The sky was paling to a steely pre-dawn gray, but the fog hugged the ground, swirling in the wheel ruts. My bones ached from crouching in that shallow grave, from breathing damp air laced with decay. Harris sat beside me, quiet, eyes on the mist-shrouded trailers. I killed the engine and stepped out. The gravel snapped under my boots. I clicked on the mag light and swept across the Crane Trailer Park sign, its neon dead. The trailers stood like empty coffins. I hugged my jacket tighter and moved toward the nearest unit. Harris followed. We reached the door, warped wood, splintered frame, padlock undone. I pushed it open, slowly. The interior was bare, except for a threadbare sofa and a broken window. Dust motes drifted in the beam. I swept left to right, nothing. No footprints, no signs of life. Just stale air and the distant drone of insects settling for the day. I whispered, "Nothing." Harris nodded. We backed out. I paused at the threshold and glanced up at the ceiling beam. Something dark clung there, streaked and glistening. I aimed the light, dried blood. I swallowed. "They staged it," I said. "Let me hear." Harris frowned. "Why?" I rubbed my temple. "To make me look, or to make me feel, like I'm losing it." My voice cracked, like the night's playing tricks. We left the trailer and walked back to the cruiser. I dumped the glove box contents onto the hood. Remaining tissues, the scrap of coat lining, my mag light, and the radio. The pieces looked absurdly mundane in the pale light. "CSI already bagged what they needed here," Harris said. "But we should tag the blood up there." He pointed to the beam. I nodded and climbed back into the trailer with him. We snapped on gloves and pressed evidence strips along the ceiling seam. Each strip peeled away red-brown flakes. I caught a whiff of copper. My stomach turned. Down below, the beam of my flashlight caught something else. A scrawl on the wall behind the sofa. A single word carved into the paneling. "Stay." I froze. Harris leaned in. The letters were jagged, as if carved in panic. "Stay," it read, dark against pale wood. My heart hammered. "Stay," I echoed. "Stay where?" Harris shone his light around. The unit felt smaller now, oppressive. I backed out, breathing hard. The words seemed to follow me. Outside, I tore off my gloves and dropped them in the cruiser. I slammed the door. The word "stay" pressed on my mind. The whisper returned, barely there. "Stay." I shook my head. "No," I said aloud. "I'm leaving." I started the engine. The cruiser lurched forward. The trailers receded. The field lay silent. The depression where we dug felt like a wound in the earth. We coasted back onto Route 67. The world ahead was empty. I flicked on the overhead lights. Blue and red cut across the asphalt. For a moment, I thought I saw a figure standing at the tree line, tall, still. I slammed the lights off. When I blinked, nothing. Harris glanced over. "You okay?" I swallowed. "Yeah, just thought I saw someone." He didn't press it. We drove on in silence. By 5 a.m., the sky brightened to lavender. The fog lifted in ragged strips. I dropped Harris off at the station. He gave me a tired nod. "Get some sleep," he said. I shook my head. "I'll run one more loop." I pulled onto Route 67 alone. The world felt raw in the dawn light. Fields pale, farmhouse outlines softened. The telephone booth looked forlorn. The guardrail gleamed wet. I slowed, scanning for scraps of evidence. Nothing new. My reflection in the side mirror looked haunted. I tapped the dash. 5:15. I flipped the radio to the local music station. A scratchy country ballad filled the cruiser. The normalcy of it made me tense. I turned it off. Silence was safer. I reached mile 12 and paused. The depression was hidden now by tall grass and early morning mist. I killed the engine and sat listening. The whisper was gone. In its place, the distant crow of a rooster and the soft hum of waking insects. I closed my eyes. I wanted to believe it was over, that finding Carolyn Peters's remains would put the nightmare to rest. But the night had given up only half its secret. The hand, the tissues, the gun, the grave, they were markers in a story still unfinished. A crow flew overhead, cawing once. I opened my eyes. The field looked empty. I climbed back in. Before dawn fully broke, I drove to the station. I filed an addendum, recovered remains, staged blood, carved message. I recommended increased patrols on Route 67 and follow-up interviews with local residents, though none claimed to see or hear anything. By 6 a.m., I was alone in my office, sipping tepid coffee. The report lay open on my desk. I stared at the word "stay" typed under additional observations. It felt like a command. I tapped my pen. The whisper echoed in my memory. I jotted a note in the margin. Follow up on abandoned units. Check for stay carvings. Then I closed the laptop. I grabbed my jacket. I stepped outside into the pale morning. The county was waking. Distant tractor rumble, dog barking, church bell tolling 6. I walked to the cruiser, slid in, and exhaled. The road stretched west, promising routine calls, trespassers, livestock complaints, the usual. But I knew the night lingered in those fields, waiting. I started the engine. The dashboard clock read 6:10. I eased onto Route 67. As I passed mile 12, I glanced left at the hollow. The grass quivered, though there was no breeze. And in that moment I almost heard it, a faint, "Mills, stay." I swallowed hard, pressed the accelerator, and drove on. The morning sun broke over the horizon, washing the world in gold. Yet the dark remained, curled around the edges of the fields, holding its secrets. I glanced in the mirror. The road behind lay bright, but I knew the shadows would return. And I knew I would too, night after night, chasing whispers and half-told stories on Route 67, because some part of me belonged out there in the dark. I felt the cruiser shudder as I crossed over the rise onto the flats beyond mile 12. The dawn light had burned away most of the fog, but low banks lingered in the hollow where we dug up Carolyn Peters. The grass there was flattened, stained dark in places. I kept my eyes forward, but I could feel that hollow watching me. My hands tightened on the wheel. I'd promised Harris I'd step back after this shift, hand off the patrol to someone else, but I couldn't let it go, not yet. There were too many fragments. Tissues, lining scraps, blood on wood, a severed hand, half a body, a carved message. They fit together like jagged puzzle pieces with no clear picture. And that whisper, my name, carried on a breath that wasn't mine. The world felt ordinary around me. Tractors rumbled in distant fields. Songbirds flitted through fence posts. An old dog barked at a crow. But I knew the other thing was there, the soft presence at the edge of vision, the hush after static, the way the night pressed in when the sun dipped. It never truly left. I drove on to the station, radio silent. Inside, the desk was piled with paperwork. Accident reports, medical calls, a trespassing warning. I dropped my gear and grabbed fresh gloves. On my desk lay the lab results. Blood type A confirmed, DNA inconclusive. The hand's bones showed healing fractures, months old, not fresh. Whoever had lost that hand had survived the injury long enough for partial healing. Then they, or someone, removed it. Why? I printed the Doppler radar for that night. A weak front had passed. Gusty winds, but no rain. Temperatures hovered near freezing. Nothing unusual. Yet the fields were churned, the grave freshly dug, the blood staged. That much I knew. The why and who remained blank. I grabbed the keys and headed back out. Harris was at his desk, half asleep over a cup of coffee. He looked up. "Back out there?" he asked softly. I nodded. "One more look." He stood and stretched. "I'll come with you." We climbed into our cruisers and rode single file back to Route 67. The county lights faded behind us. The road stretched, empty and expectant. I switched off the overhead lights and let only the headlights pierce the coming night. When we reached the hollow, I stopped. The grass was wet with dew, pale in the beams. I stepped out, heart thudding. Harris followed. We crouched at the edge, the depression gaped like an open wound. I swallowed. There, I pointed to a cluster of stalks at the far edge. The ground around them was slightly lower, too subtle for most. I clicked on the mag light and swept the beam. The stalks parted to reveal a burlap satchel, frayed and stained. Harris's eyes widened. "You didn't see that before." I shook my head. It must have been covered by grass when CSI left. I approached, boots silent on the soft soil. The satchel lay half buried. I knelt and unzipped it. Inside, a weathered notebook, its cover warped by moisture, pages yellowed. I lifted it carefully. The first page bore a scrawl in dark ink. December 14th. They watch. I hear them whispering my name. They want me to stay. My pulse spiked. I flipped pages. The entries were sporadic, dated over months. January 3rd. The shapes moved just beyond the corn. I feel their eyes on me. February 20th. I left a tissue by the guardrail. They came. They watched. March 11th. The hand is buried. They took it. I found the lining at the trailer. April 30th. I carved "stay" on the beam. It echoed. They answered. And the last entry, scrawled in trembling letters, May 4th, 0143. They want me to finish the circle. I am afraid. If you find this, turn back. Don't follow. I swallowed hard. Harris shone his light over my shoulder. This is someone's journal. I closed the book gently. Someone who came before me. Harris frowned. Or someone who wanted you to find it. I nodded. The pieces clicked. The tissues, the lining, the blood, the carving, the whisper. They were staged markers. Breadcrumbs laid by this writer of the notebook. Someone lured me here, guided me through each act. Someone who knew my patterns, who studied my route. Someone who wanted me to dig up Carolyn Peters, and perhaps something more. I slipped the notebook into an evidence bag. The damp air felt colder now, the field darker. I shivered. The night was alive with intention. We rose. Harris glanced at the buried satchel. Should we call CSI again? I shook my head. Number, let it be. The notebook is the key. We take this. We walked back to the cruisers. I paused, looking at the depression one last time. The grass settled, the earth closed in. The night exhaled. I felt a whisper at my ear, a breath of wind or something else, and turned. Nothing. We drove off, heading back to the station. The notebook lay on the seat beside me, a silent wait. By the time the station lights came into view, the sky was paling with first light. I wrote a supplemental entry in my report. Discovered satchel and journal. Suspect unknown. I logged the notebook into evidence. Harris poured 2 cups of coffee. We sat in the briefing room, silent, reading the journal by fluorescent glare. Each entry was a step in a ritual. Someone's attempt to draw me deeper into the night's secret. The writer stopped at my shift's hour. Did they succeed? Were they still out there watching? Or was I merely the next chapter? I closed the journal. What now? Harris asked. I rubbed my eyes. We watch, we wait, we analyze every detail. He nodded. And hope they slip up. I stared at the pages. The final line, if you find this, turn back. I thought of Carolyn Peters, half found, and the hand with no owner in the database. I thought of the shapes in the corn, the whisper of my name, the flushed thrill of discovery. I realized the real danger wasn't in the field. It was in the chase, in letting the night's mystery pull me in deeper. The writer warned me, but I ignored it. Now I was tangled in someone else's story. I stood, stretching. Let's run the journal through forensics, handwriting, ink analysis, see if we can ID the author. Harris gathered the cups. And check missing persons for anyone who kept a journal. I nodded. And re-interview witnesses near Crane Trailer Park. Someone must have seen the satchel being buried. He frowned. After last time, I doubt it. But we try. We worked through the morning. Interviews, evidence submissions, lab requests. By noon, the station hummed with routine calls. Accidents, alarms, paperwork. The notebook sat in my locker, locked away. I stepped outside for air. The sun was warm on my face. The world looked ordinary. Cattle grazed. Children waited at a school bus stop. The wind stirred new leaves on an elm. Yet I knew the other world waited in the fields, where secrets lay half buried. I closed my eyes, inhaled. I almost heard it. Mills. Stay. But the breeze was normal. The whisper was gone. I opened my eyes. A scrap of paper lay on the cruiser's hood, fluttering in the breeze. I approached and picked it up. It was a single tissue, folded small, stained faintly pink. No writing. My heart thundered. I looked at the station building. Lights and windows, deputies inside. I held the tissue like a rebuke. Someone had been here. Someone was still watching. I slipped the tissue into an evidence bag and locked it away. My hands trembled. Later, I lay in bed at home, the notebook and tissue on my nightstand. The room was dark, the blinds closed. I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house sounded like footsteps. My phone lay on the mattress. Unread messages from Harris, lab updates pending. I thought of the final journal entry. If you find this, turn back. I wondered if I'd pushed too far, if some line had been crossed, if the night would demand its price. I reached over and opened the notebook to the last page. The words stared back. They want me to finish the circle. I closed the book. My reflection in the window looked hollow-eyed. I whispered, "Who are you?" Silence. Then, faint as a sigh, I heard it. "Mill, finish the circle." I froze. The words drifted away like mist. I closed my eyes and counted. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. The whisper didn't return. I lay back, heart racing. The night was quiet. too quiet. By morning, I'd made my decision. I'd follow every lead, chase every whisper, dig until the fields yielded their secrets. I'd confront the author of the journal, wherever they hid. I'd find who staged those markers and why, and I'd finish the circle. Because I was Deputy Mills, Marion County, and I didn't walk away from a case. Not when half the answers lay in the hollow waiting. Not when the night still called my name. The sun rose. I closed the notebook, pocketed the tissue. I grabbed my jacket, holstered my sidearm, and stepped outside. The world looked bright, deceptively ordinary. I slid into the cruiser and started the engine. The dashboard clock read 6:45. I shifted into gear and pulled onto Route 67. Mile 12 passed under the tires. The depression lay hidden in tall grass. I exhaled. The road stretched ahead, open, waiting. And I knew the night would return. The shapes, the whispers, the staged clues, all part of a circle that I would close. I pressed the accelerator. The cruiser surged forward. Behind me, the field lay still. But I could almost hear the faintest whisper on the wind. Thank you. Stay. I didn't look back. I drove on. I guided the cruiser past mile 12-1, final time before the sun fully crested the horizon. The fields lay gold and empty, the hollow where we'd unearthed Carolyn Peters now nothing more than a shallow dip in dew-glazed grass. Yet I felt its weight behind me, an unseen gravity pulling at my spine. I parked on the shoulder, cut the engine, and stepped into the morning chill. Harris pulled up behind me, rubbing his eyes. "Last look?" he asked. His voice was flat with exhaustion. I nodded. Last look. We approached the depression together. The grass had begun to reclaim the earth, bending back into place like a wound healing. I knelt and brushed aside the dew-wet blades. The soil underneath was dry and firm. No sign of recent disturbance. The burlap satchel, the notebook, the tissues, the scraps of lining, all gone with the dawn. Only the hollow remained. I closed my eyes and placed a hand on the earth. My palm warmed against the cool dirt. I thought of the journal's final plea. If you find this, turn back. I thought of the whisper in the mist. Finish the circle. I thought of Carolyn Peters, half found, her story left incomplete. I opened my eyes. Circle's almost closed, I said. Harris crouched beside me. You sure about this? I stood and offered him a hand up. I have to be. We returned to the cruisers. I slid into the driver's seat, Harris into the passenger's. The notebook lay on the console, closed. Beside it, the single tissue in its evidence bag looked absurdly fragile. I started the engine. Here's the plan, I said. We run the notebook through forensics, handwriting, ink, paper age. We re-interview every witness within 5 miles of Route to 67, focusing on anyone who changed their story. We cross-reference missing person reports for anyone who kept a journal or had hand injuries. Harris nodded. And the tissue? I tapped the bag. DNA again, but this time with more markers. We'll send it to the regional lab. Maybe they'll find something new. He exhaled. All right. We rolled back onto Route 67. The world looked benign in daylight, farmers tending fields, a lone cyclist pedaling down the shoulder, birds wheeling overhead. But I knew better. I felt the memory of the night clinging to the road, in the sway of corn stalks and the curve of the guardrail. We drove in silence until we reached the McAllister farm. The porch swing was empty. The windmill stood still. I slowed, shone the spotlight across the broken window. Nothing moved. I killed the engine. Check the barn, I said. Harris frowned. You want just look. He grabbed his flashlight and climbed onto the porch. I watched his beam dance across the sagging boards. He slipped through the doorway into inky darkness. I heard the floorboards creak. Then he emerged, shaking his head. "Nothing," he said. I exhaled. "Let's go." Back in the cruisers, I followed Route 67 to the station. Over the next days, we executed the plan. Forensics on the notebook revealed partial fingerprints, smudged but distinctive, on the cover. Ink analysis dated the writing to within weeks of the entries. The paper matched a local brand sold at the general store in Marion County. Witness interviews turned up a seasonal farmhand who recalled seeing someone bearing a satchel in the field around May 4th, hours before Peters vanished. He described a figure in dark clothing, hunched and quick, carrying what looked like a notebook. He couldn't identify the person, though he remembered the limp. One arm held close, wrist bent oddly. DNA from the tissue finally produced a partial profile. It matched a woman in her mid-20s with type A blood. No direct match in criminal databases, but familial searching pointed to a local family. The Carters. One daughter, Anna Carter, age 24, disappeared months ago. Her parents filed a missing persons report in February. They mentioned Anna worked odd jobs, farmhand, housekeeper, then vanished. No trace, no demands. My pulse hammered. Anna Carter, the journal writer, the staged clues, the whisper calling my name, the healed fractures in the hand. Anna lost part of her hand in an accident 6 months ago, she told her family, then stopped answering calls. I pulled Harris aside. Family Carter. Anna fits the profile. Age, blood type, injury. She wrote the journal, staged the scenes, lured me here. He frowned. Why? What's her motive? I shook my head. I don't know yet, but she's in that hollow, maybe alive or maybe not. We organized a search warrant for the Carter property, a rundown farmhouse 3 miles north. Local deputies joined. We moved at dusk, tactical lights cutting through the growing dark. My heart thundered as we approached the porch. The air smelled of damp wood and old smoke. I knocked. No answer. I radioed the team. They breached the door. Inside, empty rooms, peeling wallpaper, scattered papers. In the back bedroom, Anna's belongings, clothes, a crutch, medical brace, lay abandoned. On the desk, more journal pages, unfinished entries, desperate scrawls pleading, "Don't follow." Then we heard it, a soft sobbing from the cellar. I motioned and descended the rickety stairs. The air grew cold, dank. At the bottom, flashlight beams converged on a narrow corridor. At its end, a door cracked open. I pushed it. Anna Carter sat on a cement floor, back against the wall, knees drawn up. Her hair matted, eyes wide with terror and relief. She held a battered notebook to her chest. She looked at me, Deputy Mills, and whispered, "You came." I knelt. "Anna, it's okay, you're safe." She shook her head. "Number. You don't understand. They made me do it." Her voice trembled. They whispered, they watched, they wanted me to stay, to finish the circle. I glanced at Harris, then back at Anna. "Who's they?" She pointed to the far corner, a dark arch where the cellar extended into blackness. Them, in the corn, in the night. They took my hand. She flexed her left sleeve, no hand beneath. I escaped, but they wanted me back. They wanted someone to finish it. My stomach dropped. "You staged the scenes to lure me." She nodded. "I thought maybe if you found me, they'd leave me alone. But they followed you instead." I glanced at the darkness behind her. The beam caught nothing, just concrete and shadow. Yet I felt eyes on me. Harris stepped forward. "Anna, we'll get you help." She shook her head. "Number, they're here." She looked at me, tears streaking her cheeks. "You have to close the circle." My heart hammered. "What circle?" She slid the notebook into my hands. The final blank pages were sketched with a crude map. Route 67, Mile 12 Hollow, the McAllister Farm, Crane Trailer Park, and the Carter Cellar, all connected in a loop. At the center, a small circle labeled simply Home. Underneath, a single instruction, Bring me home. I understood. The ritual had to be completed, from the hollow back to her place of safety. The circle of locations, the staged clues guiding me, the whisper demanding closure. I looked at Anna. I'll finish it. She closed her eyes. Relief and fear warred on her face. Then they'll let me go. I turned to Harris. Get her medical attention. I'm going to drive the circuit, complete the loop. He hesitated, then nodded. Be careful. I led Anna up the stairs into the cruiser. She curled in the passenger seat, clutching her brace. I slid in, started the engine. The dashboard clock read 2014. I shifted into gear and pulled onto Route 67, heading south toward the hollow. Anna watched the field in the beam. This is where it began, she whispered. I exhaled. We'll finish it here. I stopped at the depression. The grass had grown back. I stepped out, Anna beside me. I planted the notebook and tissue in the hollow's center. I spoke aloud. Circle complete. Bring her home. The wind stirred. The field seemed to exhale. For a heartbeat, the air was still. Then the hollowness felt less oppressive, as if a weight had lifted. Anna's shoulders sagged. She whispered, Thank you. I nodded. We returned to the cruiser. I drove the remaining loop, McAllister Farm. Nothing moved. Crane Trailer Park. Dark, but silent. Carter Cellar. Anna looked back, lips trembling. Each location felt lighter, less charged. At last, we pulled into the Carter driveway. Anna stepped out, hesitated, then rushed inside. I watched the door close. The house was silent. I knocked once, no answer. The lights stayed off. I climbed into the cruiser. The notebook lay on the seat, still warm from my hands. I pocketed it. The dashboard clock read 21:02. I flicked on the radio, static, then a country tune. I turned it off. Silence was better. I drove back onto Route 67, heading north toward home. The fields glowed silver in the moonlight. Mile 12 passed under the tires. The hollow lay silent, healed. The night no longer whispered my name. My reflection in the mirror looked tired, but whole. The circle was closed, or so I believed. Because as I crossed the rise and the McAllister farm slipped into view, I saw a figure on the porch, a woman's silhouette, handless arm at her side. She stood perfectly still, watching me. I blinked. She vanished. My heart thundered. I slowed, peered at the windows. Empty. I exhaled, shook my head, and drove on. Behind me, in the rearview mirror, I thought I saw movement in the field, a flicker of white where the hollow lay. But when I looked again, nothing remained but the road. The circle was closed. Yet some secrets never stay buried. And the night always remembers. The hum of the engine fades into the black. I lean back in my seat for a moment, listening. My breath puffs in the chill night air, little clouds vanishing against the cruiser's tinted windows. It's 12:02 a.m. on County Road 127. No radio traffic except distant static. No neighbors. Just fields that stretch out like open graves under a moon I can't see. I rub my gloves together, trying to warm my fingers. My shoulder aches where I bumped it, chasing down that false alarm at the Jensen farm half an hour ago. Typical. Someone thinks they hear shots, calls it in, and it's only an oil pump rattling. But tonight, I can't shake a feeling, deeper than fatigue. It's that hollow knot in my gut. Like I've driven this road 1,000 times and each time something new waits in the dark. I kill the cruiser's engine. The spotlight dies. Total black. I step out. Gravel crackles under my boots. The wind moans through dry corn stalks. I close my eyes, listen for anything that doesn't belong. A dog barks 2 fields over, sharp, urgent. Then silence again. 12:04. I reach into the pocket of my jacket and flip my flashlight on. The beam skitters across an empty trailer park. Rusted A-frames, broken windows boarded with plywood, no trespassing stenciled on rotted signs. An old pickup sits half buried in weeds. I sweep past. This place has been abandoned for years. Perfect spot for someone to dump a car, or worse. My radio crackles. Dispatch. Deputy 5 Alpha, any update on that welfare check? I hesitate, then key the mic. 5 Alpha. House looks empty, no lights, porch swing's broken. I'm going in. The reply comes soft. Copy. Backup en route. I step onto the sagging porch. A loose board shifts under my weight. The front door hangs ajar. I push. It creaks wide. Inside, the smell slams me. Sour milk, damp wood, rot. My flashlight beam picks out chipped linoleum, overturned chairs, a phone dangling by its cord. The handset lies on the floor, receiver cracked. No ring, no dial tone, dead. I move down the hallway. Each step echoes. My heart thumps, louder than it should. Training tells me to call out. I clear my throat. Sheriff's deputy, anyone here needs help? Silence. At the end of the hall, the master bedroom door stands closed. I don't want to go in, but I have to. I tap the door frame. Ma'am? Sir? A scraping sound from inside. Soft, irregular, like nails against wood. I swallow. I open the door. On the bed lie 2 bodies, husband and wife, faces gray, skin drawn tight. The husband's arm drapes off the mattress, fingers twitching against the floor. The wife's hand clutches a small bundle wrapped in a baby's blanket. The blanket is clean, almost pristine amid the decay. I step closer, stomach twisting. No pulse. Rigor mortis has set in. Flies drift in through a cracked window, circling before settling on lifeless skin. I shine my light on the bundle. I know what I'll find, but I need to see. I pull back the blanket. Nothing, no baby, just empty folds. My breath catches. The wife's fingers tighten as if holding on. I glance at the crib in the corner, empty, mattress-stained old yellow. No sign a child ever slept here. Yet her hand clenched like she'd feel weight. I crouch, check the floor. No footprints except mine. No blood, no note. Just the smell of rot and stale air. I step back. My radio lights up again. Dispatch. 5 Alpha. Backup's 10 out. You need medics? I rub my face. Negative. Scene secure. Request coroner. I sweep the beam around the room one last time. The broken blinds cast striped shadows. The blanket bundle seems to move. A flicker of fabric. My pulse jumps. I blink. It's still. My mind racing. Fatigue or something else. I close the door softly. The hallway greets me with silence. I head back to the porch. The old man who called it in stands by my cruiser, face pale in the light. He's trembling. Are you okay? I ask. He nods, can't speak. Tears track down his cheeks. I guide him into the passenger seat. As I click the door shut, I look back at the house. The wind has picked up. The tattered flag on a broken pole flaps once, then hangs limp. The porch swing sways, though there's no breeze on the porch. I start the cruiser. The dashboard clock reads 12:17 a.m., the same time I first stepped into that room. I drive away, but I keep glancing in the rearview mirror. The house recedes, windows dark. Yet I feel a presence behind me. A weight where the baby should have been. Tonight, I'll file my report. I'll say, probable overdose, tragic outcome. But I know what I felt in that room, the echo of something lost. My pulse still races. In my ear, the radio crackles with mundane traffic, but beneath it, I swear I hear a faint cry, like a baby sobbing under the wind noise. I flick off the scanner speaker. Silence. I'm back on patrol. County Road 127 stretches ahead, empty, and I realize I never closed that bedroom door. Or maybe I did, and something stayed behind. The road hums beneath the tires, but it sounds hollow tonight, as if the asphalt itself is holding its breath. I ease the cruiser up to 45 miles per hour and kill the spotlight. Total black beyond the headlights. My knuckles whiten on the wheel. I should radio in more, but the mic's been dead ever since I rolled onto County Road 127. Dead zone. No bars, no backup. Just static when I try. Perfect. I glance at the clock. 12:25 a.m. 8 minutes since I left that house. 8 minutes since I saw those empty eyes in that bed. 8 minutes since I thought I closed the door. Ahead, a broken fence leans into the ditch. White boards splintered like broken ribs. I flick on the overheads for a second. Blue and red reflections on the cornstalks, then cut them again. I don't want to light up the night. I want to disappear into it. At mile marker 3, I pass the old church. Once a meeting hall, now nothing but charred rafters and a collapsed roof. They say it burned down 10 years ago. They also say you can still hear hymns on windy nights. I killed my lights completely as I coasted by. Nothing but darkness, no singing, just the quiet rustle of dead leaves. My door chime buzzes, reminder to buckle up. I ignore it. My mind is back in that bedroom. The way the blanket shifted. The way the wife's hand twitched, even after rigor. I flick on the defroster to clear the mist on the windshield. The heater sputters. Cold air, always cold on these roads. I reach the intersection with Highway 49. The stop signs half buried in weeds. I brake, roll through. Then I see something on the shoulder. A figure crouched by the guardrail. I slam the cruiser into park and jump out. Gravel skitters as I approach, hand on a flashlight, other on holster. "Deputy, you okay?" I call. No answer. The figure is hunched over, shoulders shaking. A coat like the old man's, threadbare and stained. I step closer. "Sir?" He straightens. The beam hits his face. It's the husband, the corpse husband from the house. Gray skin stretched tight over cheekbones. Sunken eyes reflecting the flashlight like black mirrors. His lips part, and he laughs. A dry, hollow sound. My heart stops. I stumble back. He stands, head cocked, blanket in hand. Then he blinks, human eyes. Brown, terrified. He's real, alive, shaking. "Please," he rasps. "You have to help me find her." I shout into the mic. Nothing. I turn back. The figure's gone, vanished into the cornstalks. Only the wind moves. I race back to the cruiser, slam the door, lock it. Radio pops to life. 5 Alpha, you there? My hand trembles on the mic. Dispatch, I need another unit, code 3, possible missing person. West side of County Road, 127. Copy that, ETA 4 minutes. I peel out, tires spinning. My beam cuts through the stalks. Nothing, no sign of anyone. Only the ruined church, the broken fence, the empty fields. I hit the spot where I saw him. Scuffed gravel, footprints leading toward the ditch, then stopping. Like someone just disappeared. I crouch, trace a toe along the gravel. No blanket, no sign. I stand, chest heaving. "This isn't happening," I whisper. Behind me, headlights flare. Backup arrives. I kill the cruiser's engine again. 2 patrol cars, lights off. Deputies step into the glow of my headlights. I wave them over. "He was here," I say. He asked me to find her." I point down the road. Then he vanished. They share a look. One radios dispatch, the other shines a light down the ditch. Nothing. We spread out, sweep left and right. I call the husband's name. "Mr. Carter, Deputy Carter." My voice cracks, just echoes. After 10 minutes, we reconvene. No Carter, no blanket, no footprints beyond that one spot. I feel sick. My partner, Deputy Ruiz, claps me on the shoulder. "Probably wandered off. We'll find him." He sounds sure. I want to believe him. I spray my breath out in clouds. Or he was never here. He frowns. "What do you mean?" I point to the spot. "I saw footprints leading in, but none leading out." Ruiz crouches, inspects. "Could have washed away in the wind. Or never existed." He stands. "Let's check the house again." I hesitate. My gut screams no, but I follow. Back at the porch, the broken board is whole again. No shift in the wood. The door is closed, latch intact. No sign it's been opened since I left. Ruiz frowns and tests the latch. "Locked," he says. I shine my light through the window. Inside, the house looks untouched. Furniture in place. No overturned chairs. The phone is on the hook. The kitchen floor is swept clean. I swallow. Weird. He radios dispatch. "Scene secure. Nothing to see." I step to the porch. The flagpole is gone. No pole, no flag, just an empty mount. The swing is still, but it doesn't move. No creak. Ruiz says, "You good?" I force a nod. "Yeah, let's go." We return to the cruisers. I watch that house fade in my mirror. Darkness returns. No windows watching me back. On the drive back to the station, my radio crackles with routine traffic, accidents, disturbances, false alarms. I tune it out. My mind loops on the husband's laugh, his plea, "Help me find her." At 1:02 a.m., I pull into the lot. The station is quiet. I kill the engine and grab my notebook. I jot down times, locations, details. My handwriting shakes. I note, possible hallucination or hasha. Something else, husband apparition, house reset itself, no physical evidence. I close the book. Step inside. The fluorescent lights hum overhead. I pass the evidence lockers, the briefing room, the locker bay. Everyone's asleep or gone home. I head to my desk. I boot up the computer. Pull up the report I started. Overdose deaths, tragic neglect. I hesitate over the narrative. Should I mention the blanket, the husband's voice, the vanished footprints? I delete those lines. I stick to facts. Bodies found, signs of opioid use, coroner notified. But my cursor hovers. Part of me wants to write it all down, every detail, every tremor in my voice, like confession, like therapy. I close the document, save, lock the screen. Before I leave, I step outside one more time. The night is still. The wind has died. County Road 127 lies silent. The moon peeks through clouds. I close my eyes, listen. Nothing. But in my chest, that hollow knot remains. And in my mind, I still hear a baby's cry. I wake with a jolt. My head's pressed against the desk. The glow of the computer monitor burned into my vision. The clock in the corner reads 2:14 a.m. I must have dozed off. My neck aches. I push back from the desk and stand. Every muscle feels heavy, like I've been carrying the weight of that empty blanket in my pocket all night. I stumble outside, the station's back door creaking as I open it. The night air hits me, damp, carrying the distant hum of cicadas. The parking lot lights cast long, fractured shadows across the asphalt. I pull my coat tighter. I can't stay inside, not yet. My mind replays the scene at the house, the husband's laugh echoing in my skull. I walk toward my cruiser, footsteps splashing in shallow puddles from an earlier shower. The world feels unreal, like I'm moving through someone else's dream. I tap the hood of the cruiser. It rattles. I climb in, close the door, and kill the engine. Silence, except for the ticking of the engine cooling down. I pull out my phone. No service, as expected. I scroll through photos, the overturned chairs, the blanket bundle, the empty crib. I hesitate on the last image, the footprints ending at the ditch. I zoom in. The gravel looks disturbed, but there's nothing beyond. I swipe left. My notes. Delete subjective details. I stare at that line. I wonder if I did the right thing. A soft chime from the cruiser's console breaks the silence. A text notification from dispatch. All units be advised, senior deputy on duty. No further calls until 0500 grade. I have 2 hours before anyone else is out. 2 hours of thinking. I start the engine, flick on the headlights, and pull onto County Road 127. My beam cuts through the mist rising off the cornfields. I drive slowly, as if the slower I go, the more distance I can put between me and that house. But memories don't work that way. They chase. At mile marker 2, I ease to a stop. There, just beyond the shoulder, a solitary swing set stands behind a locked chain-link fence. I'd driven past it 100 times without noticing. Rusted metal, the swing's missing, chains swaying in the breeze. The ground beneath is worn smooth, children's footprints long since faded. I lean forward, heart ticking faster. I remember the wife's hand clutching a child's blanket. No child, but here, the echo of children's play. I kill the engine again, slide out. Gravel crunches underfoot. I crouch by the fence. My flashlight beam lands on the swing chains. They sway, though there's no wind. I reach out, touch the cold metal. My breath fogs in the beam. I let go. The chains stop. I stand. My reflection in the cruiser's window looks gaunt. Dark circles under my eyes, skin pale. I taste copper on my tongue. Adrenaline or fear. I climb back in and drive on. The cornfield on the left rustles. A shape moving between stalks. I slam on the brakes. The cruiser fishtails. I kill the engine. Listen. Heart pounding. The stalks sway, but no shape emerges. I shine the light. Nothing. I lean out the window. The air is still. My pulse pounds in my ears. I whisper, "Get a grip." I kill the beam and ease back onto the road. The dash clock reads 2:29 a.m., 20 minutes since I left the station. I should turn back, but I can't stop. I reach the intersection with the abandoned church again. This time, I stay in the beam. The building lies in silhouette. Charred rafters spread like skeletal fingers. I step out, boots sinking in wet grass. The air smells of smoke and rot. I approach the ruins. My flashlight picks out broken pews, half buried in debris. A shattered stained glass window lies on the ground, shards glinting like scattered jewels. I crouch and pick up a fragment. Deep red, the curve of a rose petal. I tuck it into my pocket. Evidence of a past life. A soft scrape behind me. I whirl. My light catches the shape of a woman at the far end. Coat like the wife's, hair matted. She stands motionless, face hidden in shadow. I swallow, hand on holster. "Ma'am?" I call. She tilts her head. No movement. Then she turns and glides between the pews. Silent. I follow, heart slamming. She stops by the altar. Nothing but charred bricks. I step closer. The air is colder here. My breath puffs in front of me. I raise the flashlight to the altar. On the bricks rests a child's shoe, a Mary Jane, scuffed, size small. My stomach drops. I kneel, heart in my throat. The shoe is damp, mud-caked. I lift it. The lining is torn, a smear of something dark inside. I steel myself, peer in. Rust? Dried blood? Hard to tell in the low light. I stand, voice trembling. "Deputy Carter, is that you?" No answer. The shape is gone. I spin, empty church. Only the wind through broken rafters. I slip the shoe into an evidence bag from my pocket. My gloves are slick. I zip it closed. I back away, breathing hard. As I turn, the altar's shadow lengthens, like someone standing just out of view. I catch my breath, step faster to the cruiser. I climb in, lock the doors. My hands shake so badly I can barely shift into drive. Headlights off, I coast down the road. The church fades into darkness. In the mirror, I glimpse the altar fragment, then nothing. I blink, the road ahead is empty. At 2:42 a.m., I radio dispatch. 5 Alpha to dispatch. I've got possible evidence, a child's shoe, at the burned church on marker 3. Request coroner and CSI. Silence, then, copy. Units dispatched. I kill the engine and wait. The world outside is silent except for distant cicadas. I close my eyes. The church's hush fills my head. The wife's hand clutching empty blankets. The husband's laugh. The footprints that went nowhere. My phone buzzes. Text from Chief. You okay? Heard you were back out. I type. I'll be in tomorrow. I don't have the nerve to explain. Headlights flare in the distance. CSI rolling up. I gather my flashlight, evidence bag, pocket the shard of glass. As I step out, the wind picks up. The swing chains behind the fence begin to clink softly. 1, 2, 3 times, though there's still no breeze. I freeze. The sound echoes across the field, then stops. I swallow, force my legs to move. Tonight, they'll dust for prints. Photograph the scene, bag the shoe, write the logs. But I know what I felt. The brush of fabric against my leg, the soft chime of chains, the hush of voices in the dark. I look back at the church one last time. In the broken doorway, I think I see a small figure, face turned away, standing just inside. A child, blanket draped over her shoulders. She doesn't move. I blink. She's gone. I slip back into the cruiser. Door clicks shut. I breathe out. The engine turns over. As I drive away, I hear it again. Soft laughter, distant, childlike, fading into the night. The cruiser's headlights carve a tunnel through the corn's wavering silhouettes. My knuckles still whitened from gripping the wheel, I force myself to breathe slow. It's 2:59 a.m. 2 hours and 59 minutes since midnight. 3 chapters of this nightmare already written in shaky ink on my soul. I kill the engine again at mile marker 5. Old Miller's Bridge. Rusted guardrails, rotted planks spanning a creek that gurgles unseen beneath. The moon peeks through clouds, reflecting off slick wood. I slide out, boots thudding. The air is colder here, damp rising off the water. I tap the flashlight. Beam lands on initials carved into the rail. E+J 2008. Someone's memory, another life. My breath puffs. I lean on the rail and peer over. Nothing but black water. And maybe, I thought I saw movement. A child's silhouette slipping under the bridge. I swallow. Tell myself it's trick of light. I push off and head back to the cruiser. In the driver's seat, I catch movement in the rearview mirror. Something crouched at the edge of the road. A shape hunched, rocking. I step out again. Gravel skitters. The shape is a little girl, head down, hair long, wearing a blanket like a shawl. She rocks slowly, humming. Her voice is muffled, but the tune, it's the same lullaby my niece used to sing. My heart hammers. Hey, are you okay? I call. She stops humming. Head snaps up. Eyes black pools. She holds out a small hand. In it, a cracked music box. The same one from the sheriff's file drawer, the one I'd tossed in evidence last week. The lid is open. Inside, the tiny ballerina is gone. Just the mechanism clicking silently. I step back. Where'd you get that? She smiles, too wide, and the humming starts again. The pad of her foot taps in time. She lifts the box, offering it. I feel drawn to take it, to close it, to end the sound. But I remember procedure, evidence. I raise my flashlight higher. She's gone. No feet on the gravel. Just the music box sitting on the pavement, lid still open, mechanism ticking. I crouch, pick it up with gloved hands. The air is so still, I can hear the ticking echo in my skull. I slip it into an evidence bag. My radio crackles. 5 Alpha, you copy? I jump. Copy, I say. I've got the music box from Miller's Bridge. Request evidence pickup. On the way. I stand, pocket the bag, and scan the fields. No girl, no rocking, just stalks swaying. I climb back in and drive on. The weight of the boxed mechanism presses in my jacket pocket. I can feel every click. At 3:14 a.m., I pass the trailer park again. Rusted A-frames, boarded windows, but tonight one window glows faint amber, like a lantern inside. I kill the lights and coast. The window goes dark. I ease closer, flashlight off, heart pounding. Through the boards, I see movement, thin shape, pacing. I can't make out face, but the silhouette is unmistakable. The wife's coat, blanket draped over shoulders. She paces, whispering, "Find her, find her." I flick the beam. She vanishes. Boards rattle as if something slipped out. I step forward. The door's closed now, padlocked. I test it. Locked tight. I press my ear. Behind the wood, I hear soft sobbing. My radio crackles. CSI en route to Miller's Bridge, ETA 5. I kill the engine, lean against the cruiser, mind racing. Sobbing behind that door. A trapped soul, a recording. My flashlight beam dances on the lock. I want to kick it down, but procedure, warrant. I count seconds. The sobbing stops. Silence. Then a single knock, 3 slow raps on the trailer's wall. I step back, knock again. I raise the beam, no one there. The lock dangles open. I hesitate, then push the door. Inside, empty living room, couch covered in dust, TV static on the floor. The sobbing resumes, from the next room. I move in, hand on holster. The kitchen doorway frames a dark shape. I click on my light, no one. The shape is a stain on the wall, dark smear like a child pressed against plaster. The blanket draped over it. I reach out, the smear is cold. My glove sticks. I pull back, smell of damp cloth, decay. I unzip the evidence bag and drop the music box inside. The ticking stops. Silence. I back out, close the door. The trailer park is empty again, no glow, no sound. I climb in cruiser, slamming door. The door echo rings in the night. At 3:37 a.m., I call dispatch, 5 Alpha. Unauthorized entry into abandoned trailer. Possible biohazard. Request hazmat. They reply, copy. Dispatching. I kill the engine. Sit in the dark. The blanket smear on the wall behind my eyelids. The wife's whisper in the wind. Find her. The cruiser's heater sputters and dies, leaving me staring into the blur of fogged-up windshield. I rub at the glass, but the mist only thickens, like something breathing on the other side. The clock reads 3:52 a.m., 7 minutes since I sealed that music box in the evidence bag. 7 minutes since I left that smear of blanket and decay on the trailer wall. 7 minutes of silence eating at me. I kill the engine, total black. No street lamps, no glow from town. I step out into the damp air. The carpet of gravel beneath my boots shudders underfoot. Each stone a reminder that I'm still tethered to reality, at least for now. Behind me, the trailer park vanishes into the mist as if it never existed. Ahead, County Road 127 stretches on, a ribbon of silver under my headlights. I flick on my flashlight and sweep the ditch lines. Nothing. No footprints. No sign that the little girl, the wife, or anything else I've chased actually crossed this road. The coroner's van rumbles up behind me. Its engine idles with a distant mechanical sigh. I catch the driver's eye and nod. They'll bag the shoe at Miller's Bridge soon. CSI will photograph the trailer. Hazmat will bleach the walls. Paperwork will record every detail. But the paperwork can't capture the hush that follows. The echo of laughter, the shape in the corn, the tremor in my own voice. I climb back into the cruiser. The coroner's headlights fade as they move on to the bridge. I close the door, lock it. The dash clock flicks to 4:02 a.m. 30 minutes until dawn. 3 more sections of this shift before the sun can burn away the shadows. I take a breath and push back onto the road. My tire tracks vanish almost immediately in the mist and gravel. I pass the broken fence and the abandoned church once more, eyes glued to the stalks. I'm waiting for movement. Any sign that the world of routine patrol is gone. Instead, I see only cold shapes and silence. Yet I can't shake the feeling of being watched. From the shadows between the stalks, from the shattered rafters, even from the empty crib at that farmhouse. At mile marker 7, the road dips into a shallow hollow. The headlights catch glints of metal. A rusted trailer door stands open. I kill my lights and coast forward. The engine idles. I'm certain I heard a clatter from inside. I reach for my weapon, flashlight in my other hand. I step onto the bottom rung of the trailer's metal stairs. They creak, loud in the quiet. The door hangs off its hinges, swinging inward. I clear my throat. "Deputy, anyone here?" Silence. I step inside. The beam picks out a cracked linoleum floor, peeling wallpaper, an overturned table. On the table, a single photo frame lies face down. I flip it over. A picture of a family, mother, father, baby. Smiles frozen in sunlight. I flip it upright. The baby's face is scratched out, deep grooves scraped into the glass. I shove it away. My reflection shifts in the broken window, a gaunt shape I barely recognize. I turn to leave. The door slams. I jump, heart lurching. I spin. Nothing. The wind, but the air is still. The trailer is sealed behind me. No holes in the walls, no open windows. The silence is thick, pressing. I exhale and tap the door frame. "Just the wind," I murmur. Back in the cruiser, I lock the doors and sit for a moment, hands shaking. 4:15 a.m., I radio dispatch. 5 Alpha to dispatch, false alarm, abandoned trailer. No one inside, lock it down. "Copy that," comes the crackle. I flick on the defroster. The glass clears. I pull back onto the road. My mind reels. Baby shoe, music box, photo with scratched infant. Each piece a silent accusation. Each moment a question with no answer. The wind picks up. A wailing whistle through the fields. I press the accelerator. The cruiser lunges forward. At mile marker 9, I see headlights behind me. Another cruiser. Deputy Ruiz again. He slows, pulls alongside. I nod. He waves me down. I kill the engine. "You find anything?" he asks. His breath puffs in the beam. "Nothing," I say. "Just shadows." He glances toward the fields. "You okay to finish the shift?" I swallow. "Yeah, fine." He hesitates. "You sure?" "You look beat." I force a nod. "Go home. Get some sleep." He nods reluctantly and drives off, lights fading. I sit alone, 4:28 a.m. 32 minutes until dawn. I'm tired, bone-weary, mind-frayed, but I can't stop. Not until I know what happened to that child. I pull away. The road dips into a grove of oaks. Gnarled branches claw the sky. My headlights pick out a figure standing beneath them. A small boy in a raincoat back to me. He stands perfectly still. I slow to a stop. "Hey, bud," I call. "You lost?" He doesn't move. I step out. Gravel crunches. He turns, face pale, eyes too large, mouth wide in a silent scream. I stagger back, His lips part, no sound. Then he bolts into the trees. I raise my flashlight, beam bouncing among trunks. Nothing, no footprints in the soft earth. I climb back in, slamming the door. My hands shake on the wheel. 4:35 a.m. 25 minutes until sunrise. I radio dispatch. 5 Alpha. I may have a missing juvenile near Oak Grove, marker 9. Request EMS and search. Copy. Dispatch replies. Unit en route. I kill the engine and sit in darkness. The oak branches scrape against the cruiser roof, like fingernails. I close my eyes. The boy's silent scream imprints on my mind. I open them. The radio crackles with routine traffic. Someone towing a trailer. Someone reporting a stray dog. Mundane. Wrong. I release the brake, pull onto the road for one last sweep before dawn. The fields blur. The wind dies. The mist burns off, revealing the pale glow of morning on the horizon. At 4:50 a.m., I return to the station lot. My cruiser's headlights cut through the pale light. I kill the engine, step out. The chill of dawn wraps around me. I look back down County Road 127. Empty, silent. I head inside. The station is waking. Lights flick on, deputies stretch. I pass the roll call room. I brush past the chief, who gives me a tired nod. I offer a stiff nod in return. In the briefing room, I lay out the evidence. Baby shoe, music box, scratched photo. Eyes shift around the table. Concern, curiosity. The chief clears his throat. We'll follow up. Good work. I nod, but I feel hollow. The pieces sit on the table like puzzle parts that don't fit. He moves on. The others file out. I stay behind. I walk to the map on the wall. County Road 127. Markers penciled in, notes in red. I add the Oak Grove at mile marker 9. My handwriting trembles. I step back. 4 markers, 6 locations, 6 events, 6 chapters. 1 left. I glance at the clock. 5:05 a.m. Sunrise in 10 minutes. The pale light will wash away the abandoned church once more. Eyes glued to the stalks. I'm waiting for movement. Any sign that the world of routine patrol is gone. Instead, I see only cold shapes and silence. Yet I can't shake the feeling of being watched. From the shadows between the stalks, from the shattered rafters, even from the empty crib at that farmhouse. At mile marker 7, the road dips into a shallow hollow. The headlights catch glints of metal. A rusted trailer door stands open. I kill my lights and coast forward. The engine idles. I'm certain I heard a clatter from inside. I reach for my weapon, flashlight in my other hand. I step onto the bottom rung of the trailer's metal stairs. They creak, loud in the quiet. The door hangs off its hinges, swinging inward. I clear my throat. Deputy, anyone here? Silence. I step inside. The beam picks out a cracked linoleum floor, peeling wallpaper, an overturned table. On the table, a single photo frame lies face down. I flip it over. A picture of a family, mother, father, baby. Smiles frozen in sunlight. I flip it upright. The baby's face is scratched out, deep grooves scraped into the glass. I shove it away. My reflection shifts in the broken window, a gaunt shape I barely recognize. I turn to leave. The door slams. I jump, heart lurching. I spin. Nothing. The wind, but the air is still. The trailer is sealed behind me. No holes in the walls, no open windows. The silence is thick, pressing. I exhale and tap the door frame. Just the wind, I murmur. Back in the cruiser, I lock the doors and sit for a moment, hands shaking. 4:15 a.m., I radio dispatch. 5 Alpha to dispatch, false alarm, abandoned trailer. No one inside, lock it down. Copy that, comes the crackle. I flick on the defroster, the glass clears. I pull back onto the road. My mind reels. baby shoe, music box, photo with scratched infant. Each piece a silent accusation. Each moment a question with no answer. The wind picks up. A wailing whistle through the fields. I press the accelerator. The cruiser lunges forward. At mile marker 9, I see headlights behind me. Another cruiser. Deputy Ruiz again. He slows, pulls alongside. I nod. He waves me down. I kill the engine. "You find anything?" he asks. His breath puffs in the beam. "Nothing," I say. "Just shadows." He glances toward the fields. "You okay to finish the shift?" I swallow. "Yeah, fine." He hesitates. "You sure?" "You look beat." I force a nod. "Go home. Get some sleep." He nods reluctantly and drives off, lights fading. I sit alone, 4:28 a.m. 32 minutes until dawn. I'm tired, bone-weary, mind-frayed. But I can't stop. Not until I know what happened to that child. I pull away. The road dips into a grove of oaks. Gnarled branches claw the sky. My headlights pick out a figure standing beneath them. A small boy in a raincoat back to me. He stands perfectly still. I slow to a stop. "Hey, bud," I call. "You lost?" He doesn't move. I step out. Gravel crunches. He turns, face pale, eyes too large, mouth wide in a silent scream. I stagger back. His lips part, no sound. Then he bolts into the trees. I raise my flashlight, beam bouncing among trunks. Nothing, no footprints in the soft earth. I climb back in, slamming the door. My hands shake on the wheel. 4:35 a.m. 25 minutes until sunrise. I radio dispatch. 5 Alpha. I may have a missing juvenile near Oak Grove, marker 9. Request EMS and search. Copy. Dispatch replies. Unit en route. I kill the engine and sit in darkness. The oak branches scrape against the cruiser roof, like fingernails. I close my eyes. The boy's silent scream imprints on my mind. I open them. The radio crackles with routine traffic. Someone towing a trailer. Someone reporting a stray dog. Mundane. Wrong. I release the brake, pull onto the road for one last sweep before dawn. The fields blur. The wind dies. The mist burns off, revealing the pale glow of morning on the horizon. At 4:50 a.m., I return to the station lot. My cruiser's headlights cut through the pale light. I kill the engine, step out. The chill of dawn wraps around me. I look back down County Road 127. Empty, silent. I head inside. The station is waking. Lights flick on, deputies stretch. I pass the roll call room. I brush past the chief, who gives me a tired nod. I offer a stiff nod in return. In the briefing room, I lay out the evidence. Baby shoe, music box, scratched photo. Eyes shift around the table. Concern, curiosity. The chief clears his throat. "We'll follow up. Good work." I nod, but I feel hollow. The pieces sit on the table like puzzle parts that don't fit. He moves on. The others file out. I stay behind. I walk to the map on the wall. County Road 127. Markers penciled in, notes in red. I add the Oak Grove at mile marker 9. My handwriting trembles. I step back. 4 markers, 6 locations, 6 events, 6 chapters. 1 left. I glance at the clock. 5:05 a.m. Sunrise in 10 minutes. The pale light will wash away the shadows, but it won't erase what I've seen. I pull out my phone. Still no service. I type a note. "Final sweep tonight. Find nothing or find everything. Need resolution or rupture. End this." I delete it. Too honest. I tuck the phone away. Outside, the sky brightens. I step onto the porch. The wind rustles the flag, newly mended, crisp. No holes, no tattered edges. The porch swing is still. The boards beneath are solid. No sign of that broken board I once stepped on. I shiver. The night's illusions retreat. The station doors open behind me. Deputies pour out, ready for day shift. I blend into the crowd, but in my pocket, the evidence bag presses against my leg. The music box's mechanism is silent now, but I still hear its echo. The baby shoe sits heavy. The scratched photo haunts my dreams. I settle into the cruiser's seat for the last time, hands trembling on the wheel. Dawn is creeping over the horizon, pale violet bleeding into the mist. My uniform smells of sweat and stale coffee. I rub my face, taste exhaustion. The engine's idle hum feels loud in the quiet station lot. I check the evidence bag in my lap. The tiny Mary Jane shoe. The music box mechanism clicking faintly against the plastic. The shard of stained glass in my pocket. Each piece weighs like a stone. I slip the bag onto the passenger seat and pull out my notebook. The final entry reads, Chapter 6, Resolution or Rupture. I close the book. Resolution feels impossible. Rupture feels inevitable. I drive out onto County Road 127 at 5:15 a.m. Headlights carve two narrow beams through the dissipating fog. The air is damp, scented with wet earth and cornstalk dew. The cicadas have fallen silent. Only the whisper of tires on gravel accompanies me. I pass the broken fence, the boarded-up trailer park, the burned church, each location looking innocuous in the pale light, as if molded back into mundane ruin by daylight. But I know what hides beneath the veneer. I know the pulse of something restless in these shadows. At mile marker 3, I ease to a stop by Miller's Bridge. The coroner's van is gone. The yellow evidence tape flutters limply in the breeze. I step out, breathe deep. Water trickles under the bridge, soft and constant. I kneel, wipe dew from the railing scarred with E+J 2008. I think of the initials, of lives once lived here. I shine my flashlight into the water. Anything could drift by in the current. Fallen leaf, broken twig, lost toy. I fish out the tape and fold it into my pocket. No sense leaving it to flap. Back in the cruiser, I drive on. The road curves through an oak grove. Gnarled trunks and skeletal branches reach overhead. As I pass marker 9, I spot a flash of color. A red balloon snagged on a low branch. I kill the engine. The balloon bobs gently, string tangled around a limb. I reach out, untie it. The latex is sticky with dew. I let it go. It drifts upward, catches on another branch, then breaks free and sails into the pale sky. I watch until it disappears. The act feels sacramental, releasing something held. My breath catches. I shake my head, get a grip. I continue to the farmhouse at mile marker 12, the scene of the bodies. The porch is empty. The door is closed, freshly painted white. No peeling edges, no sagging frame. The flagpole stands straight. The flag snaps crisply in a sudden breeze. It looks lived in. I kill the engine and approach on foot. Every footstep sounds loud. I test the door handle. It's locked. I press my palm to the wood. It's cool, solid. I glance through a window. Curtains drawn, interior dark. The swing on the porch is still. No creak. I step back. My pulse hammers. I put an ear to the door. Nothing. No sobbing, no whisper, no crawl of insects. I tap the door, twice, soft. Then a single knock, hard, from the other side. I jump. My hand flies to my holster. I spin. No one there. The door remains closed. I swallow. I whisper, "Who's there?" Silence. The only answer is the rustle of corn in the wind. I radio dispatch. 5 Alpha to dispatch. The house at marker 12 appears secured. Door locked. No activity. My voice sounds hollow even to me. Recommend we leave it. Copy that, comes the reply. I back away and return to the cruiser. My uniform smells of fresh paint now. I wonder who repainted the door, a homeowner or someone else? I shrug it off. I need to finish. I drive onto the trailer park at marker 15. The padlocked trailer stands silent. Hazmat tape flutters where they sealed the entrance. I kill the lights and coast in. My beam picks out the smear on the wall, dark, sticky, and then the blank space where the little girl stood. I step out and crouch, shine the light on the stain. It glistens. I press a gloved fingertip to it, sticky like old sap. I scoop a sample into a vial from my kit. Evidence, biological. I bag it. My radio crackles. 5 Alpha, status? I stand, dust off my knees. Collected sample, trailer secured, continuing. I climb back in. The cruiser's interior is cold. I rub my arms. 5 minutes until sunrise. I drive toward the final location, the abandoned gas station at marker 17. Codename on my map. Last call. The station sits off the road, pumps rusted, sign swinging on a single hinge. I park under the canopy. The concrete is cracked, weeds sprouting. I kill the engine and step out. The air smells of gasoline and mildew. I sweep the beam across the station office window, cracked, grime-coated, no light inside. I push the door, locked. I try the side door, also locked. I check the back, open. I draw my flashlight and step inside. The office is small, counter sagging, cash register drawer open, empty. Paper cups strewn on the floor. The air is thick with dust. I sweep the beam across shelves. Empty cans, road maps, a lone coffee mug on the counter. I step forward. The mug clinks. I freeze. The beam catches a smear inside. Dark stain, crusted. I lean in. Smell of stale coffee and something metallic. I pocket the evidence bag. From the office, I move into the garage bays. The floor is slick. Tire tracks in oil. I hear a drip, drip, drip from the far corner. I sweep the beam. A jug of antifreeze leaks onto the floor. The puddle reflects the overhead light like a black mirror. I step closer, see footprints in the liquid. Small footprints, child-sized, leading under a bay door. I follow. The bay door is ajar, just a crack. I press my shoulder and it creaks open. Outside, the ground slopes toward a culvert. The field beyond shimmers with dawn's first light. I see the little girl's blanket tangled on a fence post. I move to retrieve it. The fabric is damp, cold. I fold it. A lullaby drifts, a child's humming, from somewhere in the mist. I spin. Nothing. The field is empty. I pick up the blanket, turn for the bay door. It's closed, latched. I rip it open. Back inside, the footprints have vanished. The oil puddle is smooth. No sign they ever existed. My flashlight flickers. I click it off and on. The garage is empty. No echo of humming. No small figure. Just me and my racing heart. I scoop the blanket into the evidence bag. My hands shake. 3 pieces remain: shoe, music box, blanket. I check my map. All 6 locations visited. All evidence collected. The puzzle is complete. Yet the picture is missing. No resolution, only questions. I step into the morning light. The sky is pale gold. I close my eyes, breathe deep. The air smells of rain. I feel the weight of the night shift lift, and the weight of what I carry remain. I fold my arms, glance back at the station. I need to file the final report. I need to process evidence. I need to sleep. But first, I need to know, did any of it really happen? I climb back into the cruiser. Dawn's glow warms the dashboard. I drive the last mile to the station. The lot is empty now. Day shift hasn't arrived. I park, gather the evidence bags, the notebook, the vial. I carry them inside like relics. Each step echoes in the silent halls. I reach the evidence room, lay out the items. I log them. Baby shoe, music box mechanism, glass shard, biological sample, blanket. The digital system beeps confirmation. I step back. The items sit under the fluorescent glare, sterile and inert. No laughter, no crying, no footprints, just objects. I close the door, lock it. The click resonates. I turn away. In the hallway mirror, I see myself. Eyes red-rimmed, uniform rumpled, posture slack. I reach up, touch my face. My fingers come away damp. No paint, no blanket residue. I blink. The world seems too solid, too ordinary. I hear footsteps. Other deputies arriving, life returning. I head to the locker room. I peel off my gear. The weight of the gun, the radio, the flashlight drops away. I change into a fresh shirt. I look at my reflection. The man staring back is tired, older than this morning. I run a hand through my hair. I whisper, "It's over." Outside, the morning sun glints on the cruiser's roof. I step out. Warmth on my face. I breathe deep. The wind carries the scent of new grass. The road lies quiet. County Road 127 stretches east toward town. Kids will wait for school buses here soon. Farmers will drive tractors. Life will resume. I slip into the driver's seat one last time. I close the door. The engine starts. I pull onto the road, homebound. My mind drifts. Lullaby humming, laughter in the corn, footprints in oil. My heart still pounds. I glance in the rearview mirror. The road behind is empty. No sign of balloon, no silhouette, just dawn. I take a deep breath. I drive on. The sun climbs, birds begin to sing. I turn onto Main Street. The world is waking. I almost believe the night was a dream. Almost. Then, at the corner of 2nd and Elm, I see her. A little girl in a red coat, standing on the sidewalk, head down, humming softly. She doesn't look up as I pass. Her blanket is draped over her shoulders. I brake. Hand trembling on the wheel. She is too small, too still. I lean forward. But when I glance again, she's gone. No footprints in the wet pavement, no lullaby, just the echo in my mind. I swallow, drive on. My reflection in the window wavers. I realize I'll never know if she was real or just the fragments of my own fear. The pieces sit locked away, evidence of something lost. I pull into the driveway. The house is dark. I kill the engine. Silence. I sit for a moment listening. The baby shoe, the music box, the blanket, all tucked away. The only thing left is the memory. I step out into daylight. I close the cruiser door. The click sounds final. I stand in the morning hush and wonder, did I save her, or did I only chase shadows? The front door of my house stands closed. I approach. My hand hovers over the knob. I think I hear a soft cry, just for a moment. I open the door, empty hallway, sunlight through the curtains. My daughter's teddy bear lies on the floor. I scoop it up. Its fur is warm. I breathe out. Behind me, the door clicks shut. First turn. The hallway is empty. I whisper, "I'm home." And in the silence, I almost believe it, until I hear the faintest click, like a music box winding, and a soft giggle from the darkness. I freeze. The teddy bear's eyes seem to gleam. I step forward. The floorboard creaks. Silence. Then, just as I reach out, the world goes still. The question remains, was it her, or only the ghost of my own guilt? I climbed out of the cruiser into the chill just after midnight, the wind cutting through my jacket like a knife. Route 67 lay quiet and empty, nothing but the skeletal remains of cornstalks on either side, bending and snapping in the gusts. My breath fogged in the beam of my flashlight as I clicked it on, the yellow glow illuminating the cracked asphalt and the mile marker reading 142. No radio traffic, no cell signal. Just me, alone, and the scent of damp earth drifting from the fields. I paused at the edge of the road, hands on my hips, listening. The cruiser's engine idled behind me, its hum a distant comfort. Then came the soft creak of wood, floorboards shifting under weight I couldn't see. My heart kicked. I flicked the light off the road and onto the abandoned farmhouse set back 30 yards, its white paint peeling in broad strips. The front porch sagged. One window on the side glowed faintly. The rest were dark voids. The place had been empty for years, locals said, but tonight it wasn't silent. I closed the door of my cruiser and walked up the gravel driveway, each step crunching loud in the empty night. My hand hovered near my holstered pistol, training my senses on every sound. The distant bark of a dog, the scuttle of a rat in the underbrush, the whistle of wind through broken shutters. I came to the porch and paused beneath the single porch light, its bulb flickering in protest. The boards creaked under my weight. I tapped the doorframe with my knuckles. "Sheriff's office," I said, voice low, professional. "Deputy Harris. Anyone home?" Silence replied. I nudged the door. It swung inward on rusty hinges. I stepped inside, flashlight in one hand, radio mic clipped to my shoulder. The beam cut through dusty air to reveal a living room frozen in decay. A threadbare sofa, wallpaper curling in damp corners, an old rotary phone off the hook. I swallowed. "Dispatch, I'm clearing the cruiser to investigate a possible monitor alert at this address. Over." Static, then nothing. I cursed under my breath. Of course, no one answered. Typical dead zone. I stepped further in. The floorboards groaned beneath me. Every breath echoed. My light swept over a battered coffee table, scratched wood, a scattering of broken picture frames. Faces blurred by time. I moved to one frame and knelt. The glass was cracked. Inside, a faded photograph of a little girl on a swing. I looked up. The hallway stretched away, darker than the rest, swallowing the beam. I felt that familiar tightening in my chest, anxiety crawling up my spine. My radio crackled again. "Harris? Dispatch." I jabbed the button. "Go ahead. You good?" "You've been quiet for a while." I forced a chuckle. "Just routine. No sign of life. I'm checking the back rooms." "Copy. Keep me posted." I flicked the mic off and rose. The beam bobbed as I advanced down the hallway. Doors on either side, bedrooms, I figured. Some ajar, some closed. The air smelled stale, like sweat and mold. I pushed open the first door on the right. A child's nursery, crib slats chipped, mobile hanging broken, mattress stained. I shone the light under the crib. Nothing. I stepped back. Each room felt familiar, yet wrong, as if I'd been here before, though I hadn't. The floor plan shifted. I opened one door expecting another bedroom. Instead, I found a small parlor with a single rocking chair facing the window. The chair moved, slowly. Creak. Pause. Creak. I froze. No breeze stirred. I cleared my throat. "Ma'am?" The chair stilled. I stepped closer. The cushion bore the imprint of someone recently seated, but no one was there. I swallowed hard, heart pounding. I stepped back into the hallway. My boots clicked. The hallway seemed longer, narrower. A door at the end sealed shut. Paint dried in the seams. I frowned, approached, pressed my shoulder. It didn't budge. My gloved hand forced it open. Behind it, an attic hatch. Insulation piled on the floor. A lone bulb hanging from a string. I flicked the flashlight upward. Darkness above. I climbed the narrow stairs, each step moaning under weight. At the top, the bulb swung, casting dancing shadows. The beam revealed old trunk, yellowed newspapers, nothing more. I crossed the attic on creaking floorboards. The only sound my breathing in my ears. I felt watched. I swung the light around, corners swallowed in shadow. Then I heard it. A soft scuffle behind me. I spun, light sweeping the floor. Nothing. My pulse thundered. I forced calm. It was an old house. Settling noises. I stepped backward toward the hatch and froze. At the bottom stood a woman on her hands and knees, hair matted, eyes locked on mine. She yelled a single name. "Camille!" Voice hoarse, desperate. She didn't move toward me, just watched, rocking slightly. I swallowed. "Ma'am," I said, voice steadier than I felt. "You need to stand up." She only repeated Camille's name. No recognition, just that wild gaze. I clicked the radio. Dispatch, possible subject, no, civilian. Female, middle-aged, disoriented. I need backup. The radio crackled. "Copy. Units 10 minutes out." I exhaled. The woman rose slowly, her joints cracked. She turned and crawled toward the far wall, then vanished into shadow, slid away like smoke. My stomach dropped. I advanced, flashlight sweeping, but the hallway beyond had changed. Doors where none were before, corners bending. I stepped through one doorway and emerged in the living room again, the one I started in. The sofa, the phone, the broken pictures. I checked my watch. 20 minutes had passed since I arrived. It felt like hours. I shook my head, heart racing. I needed to find Camille's monitor, proof of the alert. I scanned the floor. There, under the sofa, lay the ankle monitor. Dull metal strap coated in dust. I picked it up, thumb brushing the serial plate. Camille Sterling. Absconded 2 nights ago. I slipped it into my jacket pocket. The house groaned, as if relieved. I moved back toward the hallway, but the door I came through was gone. Instead, a narrow arch led into another corridor, darker, colder. My breath fogged again. I clicked on the radio. "Dispatch, I've got the monitor." Subject absent. "I'm exiting now." No response. I stepped into the corridor, the walls pressed in. My flashlight trembled in my hand. I heard distant whispers, indistinct, like the wind through cracks. I forced myself forward. Every step echoed. The corridor opened into a small room, a makeshift bedroom. A single bed, blankets folded neatly. On the pillow, a muddy sneaker, Camille's sneaker from her booking photo. My heart froze. I stepped closer. The sneaker's laces were tied in a perfect knot. I reached out, and the bedsheet twitched beneath it. I jerked back. The door slammed behind me. Darkness swallowed the beam. I fumbled for my radio. "Dispatch! Backup! Now!" Silence. My breathing thundered. Then a soft singing. Child's lullaby, warped, coming from the attic above. I swallowed. My boots felt heavy. I forced myself to climb the stairs again, each step a battle. The lullaby grew louder, tinny, broken. At the top, the attic was empty. The bulb flickered. Shadows danced. The song stopped. In the beam's center lay the muddy sneaker. I dropped to my knees. The sneaker twitched. I scrambled backward. The attic hatch slammed shut above me. Pitch black. My radio light blinked. Dead battery. I pounded on the hatch. Nothing. I slid down the wall, chest heaving. I pressed my ear to the wood. A silence, then a faint scuttle below. The woman's whisper, "Stay." My heart nearly stopped. I backed away, fumbling in the dark. The hatch lifted slightly, just enough for a sliver of moonlight. I climbed through, hands shaking, dropped to the floor. The front door stood open. I didn't hesitate. I ran across the porch, dove into the cruiser, slammed the door. The engine roared to life. I peeled away, tires spitting gravel. Behind me, the farmhouse sat silent. The porch light winked off. The monitor clicked in my pocket. I glanced in the mirror. My face was pale, eyes wide. I whispered, We're clear. My voice trembled. Dispatch crackled. Harris, you still there? I swallowed. Yeah, I'm clear. Subject not in custody. End of shift. I hung up. I drive past that house on every patrol now. I never stop. Sometimes I think I see movement in the window. Sometimes I hear that lullaby on the wind, and I wonder, was it real or just the fatigue of the graveyard shift? Because it felt like something more. Something that still waits inside those walls, calling Camille's name, and maybe mine. I slid out of the cruiser and closed the door softly, careful not to wake the engine's low rumble. The wind off the fields was sharp, like a blade, cutting through the thin fabric of my uniform jacket. I pulled the collar up and clicked on my flashlight. The beam splashed over cracked asphalt and the cornstalks bowed away, their dried leaves rattling in the gusts. Mile marker 142 glowed in reflective paint. Route 67 was empty, radio silent, no bars on my phone. Exactly the kind of place you didn't want to be alone at 2 a.m. I took a breath, cold, damp, and stepped toward the farmhouse. The porch sagged, boards warped with age. The single porch light flickered weakly, as though it might die at any moment. I kept my hand near my sidearm but didn't draw it. Standard procedure, announce myself first. Sheriff's office, I called, voice low but carrying. Deputy Harris, anyone home? My words vanished into the dark interior. The door was cracked open. I nudged it with my shoulder. It swung wider, moaning on rusty hinges, and I stepped inside. The air smelled of mildew and old smoke. My flashlight beam carved through the darkness. A threadbare sofa, peeling wallpaper, a rotary phone hanging crooked on the wall. I clicked the mic on my radio. Dispatch, I'm on scene at the Sterling residence. Monitor alert confirmed. No visual on subject, over. Static crackled back. Copy that, Harris. Backup ETA 10 minutes. I swallowed. 10 minutes felt like an hour in a place like this. I moved forward, every footstep making the floorboards groan. The living room opened into a hallway. Doors on either side, some closed, some ajar. I stepped into the first room on the left, a nursery, crib with chipped paint, mobile tangled, mattress stained. I swept the beam under the crib. Nothing. A toy truck lay on its side. I bent, nudged it with my toe. It didn't move. Back in the hallway, I checked my watch. 2:07 a.m. The wind rattled the window panes. My breath echoed. I approached the next door. It resisted, as if swollen, then gave with a creak. Inside, a parlor. A single rocking chair faced the window. The cushion sagged. The chair moved, rocking slowly. No breeze stirred. I stepped closer, heart ticking faster. The rocking slowed, then stopped. I cleared my throat. Ma'am, sheriff's office. No answer. A soft scuffle came from behind me. I spun, beam slicing the dark, but nothing there. I stepped back into the hallway. My boot scuffed against something. I bent, an ankle monitor, dusty, strap undone. I recognized the model, Camille Sterling's. I pocketed it. As soon as metal left the floor, the house exhaled, a low creak like a sigh. I turned to leave, but the hallway had changed. Doors shifted positions, corners bent at odd angles. I frowned. Houses didn't do that. I clicked the radio. Dispatch, hallway layout abnormal. I may be disoriented. Static. I tapped the microphone again. Nothing. I swallowed hard. Trust your training, I told myself. Move slowly. Mark your path. I stepped into the next room. A kitchen, dirty dishes in the sink, a cereal bowl on the counter, a broken picture frame showing a smiling family. I shone the light on the photo. A man, a woman, a little girl in a smocked dress. The same girl from the nursery mobile. I felt a chill. I pocketed the frame. Evidence, if nothing else. The hallway beyond stretched longer than before. My flashlight beam trembled as I advanced. I heard breathing, mine amplified in the quiet. Then a whisper, faint, distant. "Camille." I paused. The whisper didn't repeat. I called out, "Camille, this is the sheriff's office." Silence answered. I approached a door at the end. It was sealed, paint dried in the seams. Someone had intentionally closed it off. I pushed. It budged, revealing steep stairs down. A basement? No, an underfloor crawlspace. Low ceiling, damp earth, wooden support beams. The beam caught movement, something slithering away. I squared my shoulders and climbed down. Cold water pooled underfoot. The beam danced over walls of stone and mortar. The air was thick. I heard that whisper again. "Stay." I swallowed. My heart pounded. I called, "Camille, show yourself." The beam landed on a mound of blankets in the corner. I approached. Blankets shifted. I flipped them back. Nothing but a broken doll. I straightened and froze. At the mouth of the crawlspace, the woman, middle-aged, hair tangled, crawled on hands and knees, rocking, whispering Camille's name. Her eyes locked on mine. She didn't speak my direction, only that name. I raised my flashlight. She hissed and vanished into the darkness behind me. I bolted upright, nearly losing my footing. The stairway hatch slammed shut. I yanked at it. It wouldn't budge. I pounded. "Dispatch, I'm stuck." Silence. My radio died. The house swallowed my voice. I backed away, breath ripping in my chest. The crawlspace walls seemed to pulse. I forced my legs to move, scrambling toward the hatch. It lifted slightly. Moonlight slicing the beam, I climbed through, scraping my arms. I dropped to the living room floor, gasping. The front door stood open. I didn't look back. I sprinted across the porch and dove into my cruiser. Hands shaking, I locked the door and fired the engine. The headlights cut through the dark as I peeled away. Route 67 lay empty again. The farmhouse receded behind a rise. I flicked off my flashlight mount. Beam died. In the rearview mirror, I saw the porch light wink off. I exhaled, voice hoarse. "I'm clear." Dispatch crackled. "Harris, you okay?" I forced calm. "Yeah, I'm clear. Subject not in custody, ending shift." I hung up. My reflection stared back, pale, hollow-eyed. The monitor lay on the seat beside me. Camille's name glinted on the metal. I don't know if she was ever there, or if that woman was real. But I know what I felt. The walls breathing, the whisper calling, the endless corridors. Sometimes I hear that lullaby in the wind. Sometimes I see movement in the window. And I wonder, was it just fatigue? Or did the house want to keep me inside? Because I haven't forgotten that whisper, "Stay." I didn't sleep, not a wink. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that hallway stretching away, the peeling wallpaper rippling, heard the soft whisper, "Stay." My partner called me at first light, static on his end, like he'd woken from a dream. I told him I was fine, just tired. I lied. I shoved the monitor into my locker and scrubbed the memory of its cold weight from my mind. But the house was still there, pressing against the back of my skull. By mid-morning, I was on my second cup of coffee, pacing the squad room. The others gave me looks, coffee jitters or something else. I dropped into my chair and stared at the digital map on the wall. Route 67. The Sterling place sat like a dead spot in the grid. No calls, no traffic, no cell. The kind of place you'd forget if you didn't drive past it every shift. But I remembered, vividly. Dispatch crackled. "Deputy Harris, we've got a domestic disturbance at mile marker 139, northbound Route 67. Caller hung up. Possible gunshots. My gut twisted. I grabbed my jacket, slammed my coffee down. I'm on it. The sergeant nodded. Be careful. I didn't tell him why. I parked under the single streetlight by the diner at the intersection. The neon sign buzzed. Coffee, pie, gas. The lot was empty. I clicked on the cruiser's overhead light, blue halo in the dark. I stepped out, flashlight in hand, and listened. Wind in the fields, distant rumble of a semi, no shots. I called over the radio, Harris to dispatch, en route to disturbance. ETA 2 minutes. Static reply. I drove north, passing the cornfields, the skeletal stalks bending in the breeze. The Sterling house came into view, porch light dead, windows dark. But ahead, I saw headlights. 2 cars pulled on the shoulder, hazard lights blinking. I slowed, rolled down the window. A man in a hoodie knelt by something on the ground. I recognized the pattern immediately. An ankle monitor cracked open, strap broken. Camille's monitor. I killed the engine, jumped out. Deputy Harris. He turned. Young kid, eyes wide. I found this down the road, thought it was trash. He held up the monitor like a trophy. Behind him, a second cruiser rolled in, lights painting the fields red and blue. My heart pounded. I nodded, took the monitor. Good work. Did you see anyone? He shook his head. No one. It just lay there. I glanced back at the dark farmhouse. Not a light, not a silhouette, nothing. I called it in. Dispatch, monitor recovered at mile marker 140, northbound. No sign of subject. The reply was routine, but I felt the weight of that broken strap in my hand. I stood in the road, radio silent again. The wind carried a faint sound. Laughter, or wind through broken shutters. I swallowed. Let's clear the scene, I told the kid. He climbed back in the cruiser. I turned to leave and froze. From the field's edge, a figure stood watching. The woman, crawling slowly on hands and knees, head tilted. She mouthed Camille's name, then vanished into the cornstalks. I didn't chase her. I drove off, lights spinning. My reflection in the window wavered, hollow-eyed. In the mirror, I thought I saw someone in the back seat. A pale face pressed against the glass. Then nothing. Back at the station, I locked the monitor and evidence. I washed my hands 3 times. I downed another coffee. My hands shook. The sergeant asked if I was okay. I nodded. Long night. He frowned, but let it go. I spent the next hours running reports, filling forms, trying to make the world normal again. But every time I glanced at the corner of the ceiling, I half expected that hallway's rippling wallpaper. Every time the copier whirred, I jumped. Every time dispatch went silent, I heard that whisper. By afternoon, I was driving patrol again, Route 67 southbound. The sun sank low, orange glow on the horizon. I passed mile marker 142. The farmhouse sat dark. I slowed, heart throbbing. On impulse, I flicked on the spotlight and aimed at the porch. Nothing. I drove on. The cruiser's tires crunched gravel as I passed the driveway. I felt eyes on me. I kept going. Night fell. During roll call, I volunteered for extra coverage on Route 67. No one argued. They all knew. That road had a reputation. I finished my briefing and left. At 11:45 p.m., I was back under that broken porch light. I killed the engine and sat for a moment, staring. The air was colder than before. I stepped out, flashlight in hand. The beam caught the corner of the house. A side window cracked, curtain fluttering through no breeze stirred. My chest tightened. I approached. The door was shut, but unlocked. I pushed it open. Inside, the house was silent. The living room was empty. The chair from before sat motionless. I crossed to the hallway, each step slower, deliberate. My boots creaked. I passed the nursery. Crib empty, mobile still. The monitor sat on the floor where I'd left it? No, it lay on a dresser in the corner, strap closed. I frowned. How had it moved? I stepped closer. The metal was cold, though the room was stuffy. I picked it up and checked the serial. Camille Sterling. Same. A soft click behind me. I spun. The parlor door closed. I pounded the hallway wall. Hey! No answer. I flicked my light, beam jittering. I advanced through the arch. The floor plan was wrong again. I came to a door sealed with paint. I forced it open. Stairs descended. My breath stalled. I climbed down again. The crawl space was darker, tighter. Water dripped. The beam caught something on the ground. Footprints in the mud. Bare footprints, small. They led deeper. I followed, heart hammering. The whisper came, "Camille." Closer now, urgent. I called, "Camille, show yourself." The footprints ended at a pile of blankets. I knelt, peeled them back. Nothing but that broken doll, eyes missing. I heard scuttling above. I scrambled for the stairway. Hatch slammed shut. I shook it. "Dispatch, I'm trapped." Silence. The whisper turned into a sob. "Camille." It echoed, as if the house itself mourned. I pressed my back to the hatch, sliding down until I sat in the cold mud. My flashlight lay beside me, beam sweeping the stone walls. I closed my eyes, trying to steady my breathing. When I opened them, the blankets were gone. The footprints led to the far wall, where the stone looked damp. I crawled, heart in my throat, and pressed my palm to the wall. The stone was loose. I pried at it. Behind, a narrow tunnel. Fear and relief tangled. I crawled in. The tunnel sloped upward. I crawled on hands and knees, water seeping through my coveralls. The whisper guided me. "Stay, stay." I forced myself onward. Finally, I emerged into a small room. Walls lined with photographs, dozens of them, of people wearing ankle monitors. Faces gaunt, eyes empty. Camille's photo was there, pinned in the center. Under each photo, a date, dates when they vanished. The most recent, tonight's date, my badge number scrawled beneath. My head snapped up. The room spun. I staggered back. The tunnel hatch slammed above me. Darkness. My radio crackled. Static, then a voice. "Harris? You there?" I fumbled the mic. "Dispatch, it's not safe." My voice trembled. I found something, records, photos, static swallowed my words. The light in the tunnel winked out. I dropped the radio and pulled out my pistol. My flashlight flickered once, then died. I was in pitch black. I whispered, "Camille?" The sobbing answer came from all around. I fired one round into the darkness. The echo shook the walls. Silence. Then the tunnel hatch above creaked. I raced toward it, hands scrabbling. It gave way. I crawled through, gasping. I tumbled into the living room. The chair faced me, rocking. The photos lay scattered on the floor. My photos. The missing, the vanished. I backed away. The front door slammed. I lunged for it. It opened onto the porch. I sprinted to the cruiser, throwing myself inside. I locked the door and looked back. The house stood still. No light, no movement. My breath shook. I slapped the dash button. "Dispatch, I'm out. Get units here, now." The reply crackled. "On our way." I clutched the wheel. The monitor lay in my lap, but I didn't want it. I wanted to forget. The sobbing echoed in my mind. I watched the house until blue lights flashed across its windows. I drove away, blind to the road. In the mirror, I saw the porch light flicker on, then off. The breeze carried a faint lullaby. I closed my eyes, and for a moment I wondered if I'd ever really left. I eased the cruiser onto Route 67, lights off, engine purring low. Behind me, the Sterling house sat swallowed by darkness and the swirl of blue and red from the arriving backup units. I watched until their beams swept past, then turned north, back toward the fields. My hands trembled on the wheel. I kept expecting that rocking chair to appear in the back seat or that whisper to drift through the open window. 20 minutes later, I pulled into the station lot. Dawn was bleeding into the sky, pale pink against the horizon. I killed the engine, but didn't move. The world felt off-kilter, like I'd woken from a bad dream into another one. Finally, I stepped out and walked to the evidence locker. Inside lay Camille's ankle monitor, dusted with the crawlspace dirt. I hesitated, then locked it away again. Some things you file, others you bury. By breakfast roll call, the station buzzed with routine. Stolen ATVs, noise complaints, a fender bender on Main Street. No one mentioned the Sterling place. I took my coffee black and sat at my desk, heart still hammering. The sergeant paused by my cubicle. "You look like hell." I managed a tight smile. "Long night?" He nodded. "Get some rest." I nodded, but I knew sleep would evade me. Mid-morning, I found myself back on Route 67, this time with a notepad. I traced the driveway edges, sketched the porch, marked the warped boards. I timed the distance from marker 142 to the house, exactly 30 yards. I measured the crawlspace hatch location inside. My notes grew frantic, arrows and question marks. I tried to map the shifting hallways, but the lines overlapped, twisted back on themselves. The floor plan made no sense. A crow cawed from the field. I jumped, shutting my notebook. I glanced toward the farmhouse. A single window caught sunlight, a pale rectangle in the peeling facade. For a moment I thought I saw movement behind the glass, then nothing. I closed my eyes, the whisper, "Stay." I shook my head and walked back to the cruiser. That afternoon I pulled dispatch logs. Camille's monitor pinged 3 times after I left, each time deeper in the county than silence. No body camera caught it, no witness, only that broken strap lying by the road. I circled the map, traced her last known tags. Then I stopped. There was a pattern. Old county records showed 4 disappearances in that township over the past decade, each person on an ankle monitor. Each vanished near mile markers 139 to 142. No bodies, no evidence, just gone. I leaned back, stomach twisting. I radioed the detective division. "I need the cold case files for this precinct, especially tether absconds." Within an hour, a file folder slid onto my desk. Sterling, Ramirez, Holt, Nguyen. Each file thin, reports closed for lack of evidence. I flipped through photos, empty rooms, abandoned belongings, final radio calls. The same whisper was written in margins. Possible fatigue hallucinations. Case closed. I slammed the folder. Fatigue or not, I'd seen what I saw. I grabbed my coat. I was going back. Backup could wait. I needed to map those halls on my own terms, find the tunnel, the photos, whatever held Camille and the others. At 8 p.m. I pulled up to the Sterling place alone. The porch light was dead, but a lamp glowed faintly upstairs. I stepped out, heart thudding. The air was colder, the wind had died. I clicked on my flashlight and approached. The door was ajar again. I inhaled and pushed in. Inside, the house was silent. Too silent. I moved through the living room, hallway, nursery, parlor. Each room exactly as before. The monitor lay on the dresser. I picked it up. Then I heard it, scuffing from the attic hatch. I climbed the stairs 2 at a time. The attic door stood open. Moonlight slanted in. The floor was littered with photographs pinned to the beams, faces pale, eyes haunted. I recognized names: Sterling, Ramirez, Holt, Nguyen, and my own photo pinned among them, badge number beneath. My breath caught. I stepped closer. The last photo was fresh. Camille's face smiling, eyes alive. Beneath it, today's date. A whisper curled around me. "Stay!" I swung the flashlight. The woman crouched in the corner, rocking, face hidden. I cleared my throat. "Ma'am, this ends tonight." She lifted her head. Her eyes were empty holes. She tilted her head, whispering Camille's name. I holstered my pistol and stepped forward, voice soft. "I'm here. I'm listening." She vanished, melting into shadow. The photos fluttered, then fell, blank frames drifting down. The monitor slipped from my hand, clattering on the wood. I stood alone, heart racing. The attic hatch slammed shut behind me. I didn't fight it. I let it close. The whisper faded. The house sighed. I climbed down into the living room. The front door was closed. I opened it. Outside, the night was still. I walked to my cruiser, picked up the monitor, and held it tight. Tomorrow, I'd write my report. I'd recommend the Sterling case be reopened. I'd warn the department about Route 67. But right now, I just needed to drive. I slid into the seat, started the engine, and pulled away. In the rearview mirror, the farmhouse receded into shadow. In my pocket, the monitor ticked softly, like a heartbeat, and I wondered, who was really tethered to whom? I didn't set an alarm. I couldn't risk waking to that whisper again. "Stay," etched into my dreams. Dawn came slow. Pale light filtering through blinds as I sat in the cruiser. Engine idling, eyes fixed on the Sterling house fading in the rearview mirror. I'd driven until the road signs changed from county road to state highway, but the weight in my chest didn't lift. The monitor's strap still clicked in my pocket, a reminder that Camille and those before her were out there somewhere, tethered to that place in ways I couldn't fathom. I pulled into the station lot at 7:15 a.m. The sergeant was already in, pouring coffee. He glanced up, saw my face. No words exchanged, he knew. I stepped inside, tossed the monitor onto my desk. It skittered across the wood and stopped at the edge, as if itching to fall. I didn't pick it up. Instead, I opened my laptop and began typing my supplement to the Sterling report. New evidence suggests non-paranormal but highly anomalous structural distortions within the residence. Hallways shift. Time perception altered. Victims on tether monitors disappeared. Recommend full forensic architectural survey and a re-examination of cold cases, Sterling, Ramirez, Holt, Nguyen, et al. I saved and sent it to the detective division, carbon copying the chief. By mid-morning, a detective emailed back, "We'll assign a team." Good work, polite, clinical. They didn't ask how I felt, they just wanted facts. I closed the laptop. Facts weren't enough. I spent the afternoon gathering equipment, portable mapping lasers, audio recorders, extra batteries, a body camera I'd modified to tape continuously. I packed a change of clothes, water, energy bars. The sergeant cornered me as I headed out. "You sure about this?" He nodded at my gear. I met his eyes. "I need to know." He sighed, then quietly, "Be safe." He didn't say, "Come back," but I heard it. At 8 p.m., I rolled onto Route 67. The sky was bruised purple. Crickets rattled in the fields. The Sterling house emerged through the corn, dark silhouette against the twilight. I stopped, 50 yards out, killed the engine. Silence pressed in. I stepped out, locked the cruiser, and set my gear on the hood. I clicked on my headlamp, clipped the body camera to my chest, hit record. The little red light blinked. Deputy Harris, supplemental exploration. Objective: document structural anomalies, locate missing subject evidence, retrieve tether devices. Audio and visual record engaged. I approached the porch. The boards creaked familiarly. Porch light dead. I inhaled and pushed the door. It swung open without resistance. Inside, the living room gleamed under my headlamp. Sofa, rotary phone, peeling wallpaper. I swept the beam left to right, steady. I stepped in. The door clicked shut behind me. I paused, heart thudding, then moved on. I followed the same path. Hallway, nursery, parlor. Each room as before, but this time I set markers. Strips of tape on door frames, chalk arrows on the floor. I sketched chalk lines showing direction. The chair in the parlor rocked. I filmed it. Rocking chair motion, periodic, no observable breeze. Source unknown. I pressed on. At the sealed door upstairs I paused. The paint in the seam was cracked, freshly scraped. I shoved the door. It creaked open. I ascended into the attic. The beam caught the photo gallery on the rafters. Faces of the missing. I snapped pictures. Each photo pinned with tarnished nails. I counted 24. Sterling, Ramirez, Holt, Nguyen, and others I didn't recognize. I stepped closer to read names scrawled at bottoms. My own wasn't there, yet. I moved toward the far corner. The woman crouched, head bowed, whispering Camille's name. I cleared my throat. She lifted her head. The empty socket stared. I didn't flinch. "I'm not here to harm you," I said softly. "I want to help." She hissed, then vanished, melting into shadow. The photos fluttered, one drifting to the floor. A picture of me, badge glinting, smiling behind the cruiser. The date, tomorrow's date. My blood ran cold. I pocketed the photo. The whisper swelled. "Stay." I pressed record on the voice recorder. Then I did something I'd avoided. I spoke my truth. "I won't stay," I said firmly. "Not for you, not for Camille, not for this house." The whisper flickered, then died. Silence. I turned back to the hatch. It was closed. I pried it open. The stairs dropped into darkness. I climbed down into the crawl space one last time. Water pooled at my boots. I followed my chalk arrows marking each twist. At the far wall, I found the loose stone. I pressed. The tunnel yawned. Inside, the temperature dropped. I advanced, hand on the wall, heart pounding. I came to the small chamber, photographs and dates carved into the stone. But now the photos were blank. I let out a breath. The tunnel light overhead snapped on, revealing a smooth passage beyond. I stepped forward. The beam reflected off metal. Camille's ankle monitor lay on a stone plinth, strap closed, ticking softly. I approached and gently lifted it. The moment I touched it, the tunnel lights went out. Total darkness. My headlamp flickered. I heard the sobbing. I whispered, "I'm leaving." The sobbing rose to a wail. I turned and ran, trip after trip, back through the crawl space, up into the attic, down the stairs. I crashed through the living room, out the front door, and dove into the cruiser. I slammed the door, locked it. The engine roared. I held the monitor on my lap, panting. The house stood silent. I pulled away, tires spitting gravel. In the mirror, I saw the attic window glow one last time, then fade. I drove to the station without lights. I handed the monitor to evidence. No words. They nodded, I logged it, then I walked outside. Dawn was breaking again. I stood under the sky, turning pale. I closed my eyes and listened. No whisper, no chair rocking. Just the wind in the fields. I don't know what I expected. Closure, maybe. But I got something better. Certainty. The house can shift walls. It can call names. It can trap the mind, but it can't hold on to the living. Not if they choose to leave. I clipped the final report to the chief's desk. Residence structurally anomalous. Missing persons correlation confirmed. Physical evidence recovered. Victims remain at large. Recommendation, permanent condemnation and controlled demolition. I paused, then added, and a warning, some places feed on isolation. Don't let them. That afternoon I left Route 67 behind. I volunteered for patrol in town, where the streets were straight, the houses solid, and the people visible. At night, I still hear the creak of floorboards in old houses. I still feel the tug of that whisper in my mind. But I don't stop. I keep driving. I keep the lights on. And I remember that the only tether that matters is the one we choose to hold, the choice to step back into the light. I parked under the streetlight at the edge of town just before 3 a.m., hands trembling on the wheel. The Sterling house was miles behind me now, Route 67 swallowed by fields and darkness, but I could still feel its weight pressing on my bones. I killed the engine, sat in silence, and closed my eyes. The whisper wasn't there. For the first time in days, I heard nothing but my own breath. I stepped out into the chill and walked to the rear of the cruiser. I unholstered my flashlight and clicked it on, the beam cutting through the foggy glow of the streetlight. I checked my watch. 2:57 a.m. I'd sworn I'd never go back, yet here I was, drawn by questions that wouldn't let me sleep. I flipped open the evidence bag containing Camille's ankle monitor. The strap was snapped shut around a piece of chalk-marked floor plan I'd sketched, binding memory to metal. I tapped the monitor's sensor, no signal. Camille was gone. The others were gone. All the tethered souls of that house vanished into whatever labyrinth lived behind its walls. A soft hum drifted from the diner across the street. Coffee brewing. Someone humming along to the radio. Normal life. I slipped the monitor into my coat pocket and returned to the cruiser. I sat, engine idling, and thought back over every step of the past week. The crooked hallways, the rocking chair, the crawlspace tunnel, the attic shrine of faces. Every detail had led me here, to the edge of the ordinary world, staring back at a place that didn't belong in any map. I closed my eyes and let my mind replay the final moments in the attic. The photos fluttered down like confetti. Sterling, Ramirez, Holt, Nguyen, and then that fresh photograph of me, dated tomorrow. I remembered the cold dread when I picked it up, the way the whisper swelled into a chorus. Stay. I'd resisted. I'd shattered the spell by speaking my intention aloud. I won't stay. And in that moment, the house had released me. I started the cruiser and pulled away, tires crunching on gravel. I drove north, toward the highway, toward home. The sky began to pale. The first birds stirred in the telephone wires. I passed mile marker 142. No sign of the house. It had receded behind the rise, swallowed again by the night. By dawn, I was back at my own front porch, boots muddy, uniform stained with dust. I shook out my coat and hung it by the door. Inside, the house was quiet. Familiar creaks, the hum of the refrigerator, the soft ticking of the clock. I poured coffee, black, and sat at the kitchen table. The steam curled in the pale morning light. My hands still shook. I opened my laptop and retrieved the structural survey I'd commissioned. The architect's report lay open. Irregular floor plan, non-Euclidean geometry, evidence of shifting walls under load, psychological impact on occupants unknown. Footnotes cited anomalous sensory experiences and recommended demolition. I scrolled to the end, a final note. Long-term monitoring advised. Do not enter structure alone. I closed the file. My phone buzzed. Text from dispatch. Detectives are following up. Good work. Get some. Rest, I typed back. Will do. Then I deleted the message. Rest was a luxury earned by those who slept. I stood and walked to the window, looking out at the quiet street. Kids would be waiting for the school bus in a few hours. Mail trucks would roll by. Life would resume its steady pace. And I would return to patrol. Calls about barking dogs, trespassing teens, a fender bender at Main and 3rd. I would wear my uniform. I would speak with calm authority. And I would smile at the neighbors I passed. But I would also carry the memory of that house in my bones. I would carry the knowledge that some places are alive, that they remember every footstep, every whisper, every broken tether, that they feed on solitude, on the vulnerability of the mind when the world falls silent, and that, given enough time, they can twist reality itself. I lifted my coffee mug in a silent toast to the dawn. Here's to the living, I murmured. I drank, feeling the warmth spread. I set the mug down and reached into my pocket, fingering the cold metal of Camille's monitor. Then I placed it on the table. It clicked softly, an echo of a heartbeat. I pressed my palm over it. You're safe, I whispered. I won't let them forget you. Outside, a lone crow took flight. The morning sun broke over the rooftops. I turned away from the window and prepared for the day's shift. The radio crackled to life. I clipped on my mic. Deputy Harris, I said, voice steady. Ready for call. I stepped into the hallway, leaving the darkness behind. But sometimes, late at night, when the wind is still and the fields lie silent, I close my eyes and I hear it, that soft, insistent whisper. Stay. And I remember the choice I made, to step back into the light, to drive away, to live. Because some tether is stronger than fear, the tether of our own will pulling us home.